all good, man. And you know, the funny thing is that I've learned to overcome it, and I've had a much I'm much more empowered to be myself now.
Well, I admire that.
Oh no, it's cool, dude. Let me tell you, it took a long time.
I'm begging anybody out there, before you go and get surgery, before you walk.
I always hear a lot of guys calling in, and they're always like, you know, down and out about their haircuts.
I'm begging anybody out there, before you go and get surgery, before you walk into these hair club system places. I'm telling you right now, I am $20,000 in the hole, and 10 years of stress, the last 3, an absolutely horrifying existence of stress and pain. And I can promise you, the stress of this hairpiece is 1,000 times more than I would have ever felt if I had just been confident with who I am, dealt with the fact that these are the cards I've been dealt, and deal with them, and just shave my head. And honestly, like Spencer said, not everyone's there, but that's where I'm at.
And now something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside.
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hair loss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome to the show, 888-659-3727. Thank you so much for hanging out, holding on, waiting for us to start the broadcast. I want to welcome all of our new listeners who are actually tuning in on Joe Tillman's YouTube channel, which is YouTube/Joe Tillman or some shit like that, I'm sure. Right, Joe?
Yes, something like that.
Something like that. And I also want to...
I think it's, Joetronic. That's the way it's listed. So youtube.com/Joetronic.
All right, well, just look for Joe Tillman on YouTube, and you can obviously watch the program live. Welcome everyone who is listening on iHeartRadio, iTunes Radio, on Stitcher Radio, and all the other broadcasts. Joe, let me ask you a question. Based on last week's recording, I try to change my levels a little bit. They may sound a little loud in your headset, but are they distorted in any way?
No. Maybe a very slight, like if you heard it, you'd probably, maybe a very slight amount, but overall it sounds good.
Okay. Well, we will figure it out. Guys, and actually, let me turn my levels down slightly. I don't want any distortion. 888-659-3727, that's probably better. Give us a call. We are live. I'm in Los Angeles. Joe Tillman is in Vancouver, British Columbia. Also want to note that we have been having some technical difficulties because, you know, what a lot of you guys don't understand is when you see YouTube videos just uploaded, essentially people are in one location. If they are in a studio, for instance, say Joe Rogan show, whatever it is, they're in the same studio. We are dealing with getting a audio feed, a video feed, through a mixer, through software, back out to another resource, to New York and back, and we lose sometimes our sync. We just put up, and we're going to talk about this in a minute, and Joe can talk about it as well, a new YouTube page that I thought was really important to start because, and that's why I'm bringing up the sync issue, because this particular clip is out of sync. So just, you know, eventually we're going to get things together. But, you know, there has been a tremendous shift in this field, a huge paradigm shift, where just 10 years ago, and while it took about a decade to get to the point where it was 10 years ago, we were seeing much more consistently good hair transplant results. It was more easy to understand the industry, more easy to understand the field, more easy to, or easier to kind of make certain decisions when considering surgical hair restoration, because there were only so many choices. And out of those choices, people were able to really see who were, the guys who were doing the good work, the clinics who were doing the consistent work, and the clinics who weren't. Now, the industry has changed so much because of the turnkey pop-up shop, hair transplant clinics, because of what's happening in India, because of what's happening in Turkey, because of, frankly, the way FUE is being marketed. And sadly, I regret, in some respects, the fact that I introduced FUE to, in some respects, I should say, and I did say that, but, FUE to doctors here in the U.S., and then it didn't, just went haywire in Europe, in Asia, and now all over the world. And it really lowered the barrier to entry for physicians and clinics and cosmetic surgeons and med spas to kind of enter this field and essentially market and do what they will to unsuspecting, vulnerable consumers. And with that said, a lot of the new information education that's being presented both by those in the industry and those who aren't in the industry, just consumers themselves, is it's just causing so much confusion. Even with the best intentions, the confusion is being put out there. And sadly, that confusion, when it comes to something as that has such a profound impact on your life as cosmetic surgery, as surgical hair restoration, even being slightly confused and mistakenly misinformed can ruin your life. And that's why I felt that it is now time to, and Joe actually put some fire under my ass, to tell you the truth, after seeing what he's doing and, getting his message out there. Instead of considering retiring, which is something I've been considering for a long time, for almost 5 years now, where my significant other has been on my ass for a long time. Like, why are you still fucking doing this? I realized that, maybe it's time to start a new stride. Instead of sitting back, taking care of business in the fashion that I have been over the last few years, kind of get back, do it old school, and get the information out to the public in the way in which is really going to help them the most. That's my opening shtick. Joe, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I want to thank you, first of all, for saying, please come back, dude. Please.
Well, what else am I going to do? Do this by myself? I mean, come on.
But
you're the pro. You're the OG. You're the one that kicked this whole thing into overdrive to begin with 20 years ago.
I am old. That's the sad part.
Blew the doors off with the original The Bald Truth book. Flipped the industry on its ass at the time.
Yeah.
And so I have to say, I mean, it's not completely altruistic. I mean, I need to learn more from you. so I need you to stick around, man.
So essentially, I'm Johnny Carson, you're Jay, and this is what's going to happen. I'm going to hand you the baton eventually. But for now,
I'd rather not Jay. I'd rather be more of I don't know, a Conan.
Okay.
He's just better.
That's fine. Okay. But here's the thing. I think a lot of the young guys who are watching the program through your YouTube channel, and they may not even know who the fuck I am, because this is what happens now. The new search, obviously, is YouTube. I have neglected utilizing YouTube. Put up some stuff a few years ago, like over a decade ago. Kind of just forgot about it. GFQ will put up full podcasts of the program. But there's no real promotion there. It's not being necessarily promoted as, the hair loss thing. And it's a full 2-hour podcast. And, guys, and in general, and I'm the same way now, I now have a much shorter attention span. I am now a guy who wants to get his information quickly. And if I can't get it quickly, and if I can't, in this industry especially, it never changes. God, it's like 110 degrees in here. People just want to be fixed. So they may not want to listen to, what the reality is, because the reality is Many of you can't be fixed. Many of you are not candidates for surgical hair restoration. Many of you will never do well on finasteride or minoxidil. Many of you who are now considering gray market products, which have made this total resurgence, like RU 58441, which people are doing videos on. I wrote it back in 1998. Actually, I wrote the book in '96. I wrote about the French drug company, Rousseau, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
who was initially, and I was in contact with them, and initially doing the clinical trials on this agent for hair loss. Long story short, wrote about it in The Bald Truth. Everyone was very excited about it. They dropped the project for various reasons. Some theoretical reasons were that they didn't believe, I'm not saying that this is the case, that it would meet phase 1 safety protocol. Now, that's huge. That's a big fucking thing, okay? This was a possible agent that can reverse miniaturization, stop the progression of hair loss, be applied topically, and potentially, the thought was that it would be something that would help people without the potential adverse side effects that at the time Proscar was theorized to cause in younger men. This is before Propecia was even approved. Long story short, didn't come to market. If it was something that would come to market, if it was something the drug company thought it was going to make a tremendous amount of money from, and they were able to bring it to market, don't you think they would have brought it to market?
Well, exactly. I mean, I remember first hearing about RU, like 16, 17 years ago in the forums, and I remember thinking to myself,
I
didn't
so
know
heavily painted right now. Jesus.
It looks great.
Thank you.
I didn't know really anything about any of the medications, but what I did know is that RU was not an actual medication. It was a combination of ingredients that people were putting together based on, at the time, lost research or something. I forgot the details, but it's like someone found something that had been studied at one point, like, hey, what the hell is this? And it's this RU stuff. And I remember thinking to myself, this is fringe. This is, I'm just learning about the things that are actually FDA approved, that are getting real results. Why would I even want to mess with something that I have to mix in my garage? And it's like you were saying at the beginning or at the top of your segment, is like, it's made a resurgence. People are talking about it as if it's something brand new.
Well, that is the thing about this new culture, and that's why it's important, and that's why I think that it's important that we kind of come back and re-educate some of the youngsters out there, and really let them know that, what is new is old. What you guys think is happening out there, what you guys are writing about, what you guys are YouTubing about. Unfortunately, you're providing people with, misinformation based on just stuff that you've been able to investigate on the internet. Now, the reality is, not only have I had a direct pipeline over the years, just based on my, length, just being in the business for so long, having the first book published, exposing the industry, it becoming a bestseller, me getting on the radio, so everyone, of course, wanted to speak with me, including all the drug companies and the scientists and all the different manufacturers of different products. I am still, contacted on a weekly basis about these things. And the reality is, I think that people need to understand and know, get this information from the inside. Now, I've avoided speaking about gray market products for a long time, because I always felt that every time we did that in the past, then all of a sudden, obviously traffic spikes on Bald Truth Talk, and there's all kinds of conversations. That's all great for business, but it's not great for the consumer, for these young guys who are out there willing to not only spend their money, but waste their time. I will tell you that in well over 20 years that I've been doing this, I have never, ever been in contact, anecdotally, or clinically, otherwise, with anyone who has used this agent, something that you have to self-mix at this point, on a long-term basis, who's halted the progression of their hair loss and has regrown significant hair. I have seen some cases where there's been some, impressive short-term results on guys who were miniaturizing. Never seemed to last. And I have actually heard of many guys who have encountered adverse side effects. They're real. Anyone who claims that topical finasteride, topical dutasteride, topical, RU58841, whatever it is, it doesn't interact with your body systemically. If the drug is going to work, it has to get into your bloodstream. That's just the way that it is. Now, if you use topical finasteride or dutasteride, there's a lower incidence of adverse side effects because you're getting a less of a systemic effect.
Yeah.
With that said, it's also possible to have less of a long-term positive effect from the drug. I know that there are guys who are using topical finasteride who seem to be doing very well on it. Guys who could not tolerate the pill. That's fine. That's why it's there, and I think it's important. But don't be fooled. There are side effects with all this stuff. There are side effects, significant side effects with saw palmetto and Pygium africanum. Long-term side effects. Guys who have been taking these herbs and just, bingo, they can't get it up. That's just the way that it is. So for me, when someone is ordering a product or talking about a product that someone is then going to order through a gray market supplier from China or Europe or someplace else and wait for it in the mail and then with a set of directions to mix it, that's a bad fucking idea, guys.
It's a really bad idea.
And don't you think if I thought it was a good idea, I couldn't sell the shit out of that over these years?
Oh man, we could set up a shop where we've got a bunch of people mixing it for us and shipping it out. But it's one of those unprovens, right? And there's never been large scale use or acceptance or even awareness of these types of, we can't even call them products because you gotta make it yourself, but these solutions. And what Spencer was saying is, about this YouTube thing that we're trying to ramp up. It seems to me that, and you can tell me how you feel about this, Spencer, but it seems to me that it seems to me that as far as the industry goes in clinics and how many clinics are doing what and the kind of work that's being done, cat's out of the bag, genie's out of the bottle. We can't really change at this point what's already happening today. We can do what we can, we can try to influence the future through education, but what we can do, more short term is to get a stronger presence in the YouTube space to make sure that the education is real. Because right now there are a lot of great guys out there that are sharing their experiences, and that's awesome. And I think more people should share their experiences, because the more people that share their actual experiences, the more education that others will get. But there's also a level of education that is going above and beyond personal experience. And like you said earlier, a lot of this is misinformation that, the way I see it, can actually harm people. And I think it's our responsibility to continue to grow in the YouTube space, like with the new Hair Transplant Podcast YouTube channel, which will have clips of these episodes that we're putting out, whereas on my channel, we're having the full episodes, which are the live streaming episodes that we're doing now. So,
and again, by the way, on that first clip, I look like a ventriloquist. I can't say that word, but the sync is so off. I was just like, what in God's name? I was on line all day with my guy in Detroit, trying to figure things out, trying to rewire shit, figure out why this is happening. I'm doing the show out of our new studio here in Beverly Hills, as opposed to the studio in Calabasas. And it's just different configuration, different internet setup. Everything is just, it's as beautiful as the studio is, and it's beautiful. And it's important because we have to have a lot of doctors in here, whatever it is, and they don't want to drive out to Calabasas. The technical difficulties that I've had in this shop has been overwhelming. So, again, that's my thing. You guys don't give a shit. I'm sure you're just going to laugh at the fact that, I say something and then 3 minutes later you see my hand gestures.
It's like an old Jackie Chan movie.
Yeah, exactly. But the point is the information is going to be out there. And listen, what you're saying is 100% correct. I had a choice to make. My choice is ride off into the sunset and let everyone go fuck themselves. Or, kind of have some fun again like I did back when I was, in my late 20s and started this whole thing. And, and then I got on the radio. I mean, geez, I sold the book. I was 30 years old. I was a kid when I think about that.
Yeah.
And then when I got on the radio, I mean, it changed everything within 2 years. All you guys who are out there talking about FUE right now, the bottom line is, and it's not to sound obnoxious, guys would not be having FUE. Artists would not be in existence. Neograph, none of these companies would be in existence if it wasn't for Ray Woods finding me. And Ray Woods was, I would have to say, shit on by this industry.
I would agree.
He did not have the opportunities that he should have had. Everyone turned their back on his technique, which is now known as FUE. And as soon as I saw it, I'm like, motherfuckers, they don't want to do this because this is hard. This changes the status quo. This is going to make doing hair transplantation so much more difficult. Now, I thought that and said that when it was being done correctly. That's when it makes it more difficult. But the industry found a way to do it more cost effectively, not even having to do it themselves, hiring non-medical personnel to perform surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And just churn it out without even worrying about what the fucking grafts look like. Just extract 4,000 grafts, charge the money, throw it in someone's head, and wish for the best. And that's what we're seeing on the internet right now. So,
at the same time, while they're doing the same procedure to 6 other people simultaneously because they got technicians doing it.
Right. But the thing is, that's not just happening in Turkey. That's not just happening.
Oh, no.
I want to make it clear. And guys, hold on. I promise you I'll take your phone calls in a second. 888-659-3727. There's one line open if somebody wants to try to get in. It's 888-659-3727. And if you are in Europe, I have a UK number, which I'll put on the screen for a second. Why can't I do that? That's it. It's 0203-3724-683. That's 0203-3724-683. Give us a call, and I will take your calls in 1 second. What was my thought? People are out there, and I'm seeing what they're writing like to you on YouTube and stuff like that. I'm like, Jesus, no one is against what's guys in Turkey. I will tell you this, and this is the truth. So this is not violating any type of, the HIPAA violations. I'm not talking about patients or anything like that. I'm talking about doctors who apply to my organization. My full disclosure is that every doctor pays dues to be part of the organization. And we've had literally well over 1,000 applicants in the last almost 20 years that the organization has been founded. Mm-hmm. Everyone knows what I charge. It's $2,000 a month. That's it. Don't you think I would love to take all these people's money? We have, and you know about this, Joe, just in the last, it's going on 6 months since
I was going to say 6 months.
Since it started. It's 139 U.S. applicants to the IAHRS based on, and this is hearsay, I heard through the grapevine, through a big person in the IAHRS and also in my organization, that these device makers are now telling their users to apply to my organization, or join, as they say, so they can get street cred. So you do the math on those numbers. That's a great deal of money, more money than most people will ever make in their lifetime. but that would be annually. But in Turkey, the Turkish guys that are applying to the group, and these guys are charging what, €1 graft or whatever?
Sometimes less.
Yeah. They're still they're still willing to pay full price just to carry that seal. And I have a list as long as my arm of Turkish doctors. I got an application today from Turkey. Actually, they applied to the American Hair Loss Association of all places, as opposed to the IAHRS. I guess they had tried to apply. I have to look at the database, and they didn't get a response. So we are not, and I am not, anti-Turkish hair transplant surgeons. There are guys who are accepted into the IAHRS because they're doing it right. But the majority of the companies out there, sadly, are not. If you want to go and get a hair transplant that's less expensive, there are a few doctors out there who you can travel to who are doing it correctly. You want to go to India, you want to go to Turkey, check the IAHRS. You know, at least know that these guys have been vetted. Crying out loud. Let's take a phone call. 888-659-3727. Hold on. All right, let's take this first call.
Okay.
Hey, man, you are on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hello, this is Nick. I called in from last week.
Hey, Nick.
Once a month, dude.
Once a month?
How are you? What's going on?
Good. I actually just wanted to update you guys. I took your advice on reaching out to a few different doctors.
Okay.
And actually talking to them to get a person to see in person. And I actually was able to do that, which is actually which was actually really cool.
And how did it work out? I mean, it's pretty cool. Was it cool just talking to him? Were you able to, did he let you touch his hair?
He did not allow me to touch his hair.
Because I wouldn't let you touch my hair.
Yeah. And I know that, I think he was wearing some type of concealer, which I'm not sure if that's a good or a bad thing, but his hair did look good, I will say, most definitely.
I would say that as far as comfort is concerned, I understand why he probably wanted to leave his home wearing a concealer, because you can't even see the top of my head, and I'm wearing a concealer. That's how fucked up I am. So I get it, but I do think it would have been better if you could have met him in a place where he was comfortable enough not to wear a concealer.
Okay. And actually from calling a few different clinics as well, that was going to be my other thing. I learned a lot about what I do and don't like. And I'm not going to bash any of the clinics or anything. But I will say that there was a lot of clinics that were very big in terms of I almost felt like I was going into a men's warehouse getting a suit. And then they were just trying to get me in and out as soon as possible.
And you know what? Even some of the better clinics, sadly, and we're going to try to change that because I'm kind of setting some new standards this year, which we're going to be talking about, and it's going to be on the IAHRS as well. I mean, there is an emotional equation that goes into every hair transplant that these physicians don't actually realize. And it's in their best interest for every aspect of your process to be perfect, just in case the surgery doesn't go as well as you both hope. At least you know that you were treated well, from soup to nuts, from the initial consultation, phone call to consultation to walkthrough to post-operative stuff. All that stuff was perfect. Shit happens. But if one of those aspects is off a little bit, it could really destroy the emotional connection between the patient and the physician, and also just the way the patient feels about the entire process. So obviously you haven't had surgery and you're already feeling that way.
Yeah, because it's just it's crazy to me that you go to one clinic and they ask you a lot of questions about how does this make you feel, what are you currently doing preventative, and you have another person in the industry that says, hey, in May we have an opening. If you come in, we have PRP free with it for this. I'm like,
where are you located again?
What?
Where are you?
I'm Michigan.
Yeah. Okay. I can tell you that I know that guys like Paul Rose, Bernie Nussbaum, they've actually, and I'm going to put up a video on the new channel that is talking about that. I gave a talk at a conference talking about exactly what you said. And, one important question I think that most doctors do not ask is, how does your hair loss make you feel? Not just, not to put somebody on the spot, but to really get an idea of whether or not they're an emotional candidate, or they just think, maybe I could use a little bit more hair. Yep. And there's a lot you can tell from, and that just also makes a guy like you feel more comfortable, like these guys actually care. And they do. A guy like Paul Rose, that guy fucking cares. He goes to sleep at night. If something goes wrong, this guy cannot sleep. And then there's other guys who are very skilled at what they do who could give two shits.
Definitely.
So I'm sorry. I keep cutting you off, but I just want to get those thoughts across. So go ahead.
And I noticed, too, that between different clinics, too, that, like you guys made mention about products, it's amazing to me how many different versions of products there are out there with the different topicals. Like this is our version of PRP. Ours is one of the leading in the industry. And
you know what?
We have this
PRP PRP is the least standardized treatment out there at this time. Yep. Everyone has their own flavor. Everyone has a different centrifuge. Everyone's got different enhancement ingredients. Everyone's got different application frequencies, dosage, the amount of blood that's taken out, the cc's that are reinjected. There's zero standardization, and even from clinic to clinic, like say if one clinic learns from another, the proper protocol, they'll still go and change up to do their own shit. Like they'll still, you know what? I think a little extra salt. It's not enough salt in this one. Whatever.
Well, and also they change it up so that they can differentiate themselves from the other clinics, and that is in all honesty, that is a marketing ploy. So that's something else that I'm going to be working on this year is a standardized protocol for PRP. So people could walk in and say, hey, you're using a closed system or an open system. Is your system FDA approved? Believe it or not, a lot of systems out there that are being used have not gone through any type of rigorous FDA approval. It's surprising, but they're less expensive. You can get them in China and other places. Mm-hmm. There are certain centrifuges, RPM and all that stuff. Everything matters when it comes to separating those platelets, and also what type of scaffolding or matrix are they using? Is it made from your own body? Are they using A-cell? Or are they not using anything where there's kind of a scaffolding that's being injected into your scalp to help with the PRP? Are they using thrombin to help to activate the PRP? These are things that no one knows about. I saw a video, and this is from a really cool, a nice kid online. And, Joe's been introducing me to a lot of the guys who are doing online stuff, talking about, how to do homemade PRP. And again, wow. I'm not making any money from this shit. All I can tell you is it's a bad idea and it will not work. First of all, unless you actually have a complete ring block of anesthetic, you cannot inject deep enough in order for the PRP to work. Even if you were somehow able to make those growth factors something that would help put your hair into an anagen phase, they're not going to get in there.
You have to have it pretty deep.
Yeah.
And multiple, it's not just one or two injections. I mean, you have to constantly be pushing on the plunger and injecting.
It could be over 100 or more.
Almost like stabbing. I've had it done, and even with a ring block, you could still feel it. I mean, it was.
I've seen the OG, the best of the best, in my view. Joe Greco, PhD, the guy that really started it all with PRP and hair loss. And you look at the protocol that he developed, and it's a very difficult protocol that a lot of doctors don't want to follow because it's expensive. He doesn't charge a lot for how much it costs, his company. It's expensive, but it's thorough. And he understands all the nuances and the different type of platelets, when you're dealing with telogen effluvium, when you're dealing with, MPB, when you're dealing with alopecia areata. Some of the results that I've seen with alopecia areata have been out of this world. And I'm going to let you finish your thought in a second, but there's one more thing that I read on this other guy's YouTube channel that, and this is not about PRP, but this is about low-level laser light therapy. And I was kind of like, well, how is this guy saying this? He was making claims that LLLT is usually is more effective on people with diffuse hair loss. Now,
more effective than what?
More effective on people with diffuse hair loss than it is on people with a distinct male pattern hair loss.
Oh, okay. I know. Okay, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And you talk about misinformation. I see the misinformation on PRP, LLT. There is actually no clinical data showing that whatsoever. This is information that was probably provided by some sort of consultant who doesn't know anything about LLT. And I would say that, and I want to get into that with Joe after this, but I'm just, all of the stuff that you're talking about, doctors who are making claims that their PRP or CRP or that is better than the other. All these guys who are on YouTube or on other channels, whatever it is, they're reading all this stuff. They gather this information and then they're just kind of regurgitating it to the vulnerable hair loss sufferer. A guy like yourself who, if you weren't smart enough to do your due diligence, call this program, do your own research, you'd be fucked.
Yeah, 100% agree.
That's it. Sorry, dude, I'm going on rants because I can't understand what's going on today. But go ahead.
And let me let me just interject with the reminder that none of these guys, or most of these guys putting out this information, they're not doing it to fuck you over. They're not doing it to mislead you.
Oh no!
Like Spencer said, they're just regurgitating their own research, and it makes sense to them, so they're sharing it, and that makes sense in the grand scheme of things.
It makes sense to me also, and I actually like that they're doing it.
Oh, of course. No, of course.
They're trying,
on the basics of it, the information is wrong, and that's what we're concerned about. And we're actually we're both going to be working to try and improve this information on some level, even if it's not coming from us. Hopefully, others can maybe take our lead and kind of learn from us before they put some of this information out there. I mean
there's no talk about optimal wavelengths or coherence and right. The parameters that need for low-level laser light therapy to possibly work. There's no talk about the hypothesized, mechanism, whether it's stimulation of epidermal stem cells or mitochondria.
They're also throwing out too much of the marketing. Like,
why didn't I put the camera on me? Okay, sorry.
They're talking about too much of the marketing as being some sort of benefit to the product. Like one of them was talking about how the product they're endorsing has medical grade lasers.
Yeah, they're cat lasers. They're cat toys.
It's a medical grade laser. These are no different than the diodes that you get in a laser pointer from Staples that costs $3.
Look, I
literally no difference.
They are actually cat toys, and I can tell you this: that I have been offered opportunities. I know that Joe, you're a YouTube influencer and stuff, and you were offered an opportunity to endorse a product. But back in the day, I was offered $500,000, and I spoke about this on the radio. So there are air checks of this from a company, essentially just to give them the American Hair Loss Association seal and to work with them on a consulting basis. I chose. Now, I'm not talking about like a one-time fee. I'm talking about this would be ongoing. I chose not to do it. Wow. I chose not to do it, not because I'm an altruist, not because, again, it's all about my business model. In the long term, making that extra $500,000 a year would do nothing for me except I believed would destroy my credibility. So, I chose not to do it. And to this day, we still don't endorse LLLT therapy through the American Hair Loss Association because the evidence and the clinical data is still, kind of on the questionable side, even though Joe has seen some good results. I have seen some good anecdotal results. Unless there's really strong clinical data, how am I supposed to, be a part? I'm the founder of this organization. How are we supposed to support something like that?
Yeah.
So anyway,
makes sense.
Finish your I want to hear about your experience, and then we're going to take some more calls. 888-659-3727. Give us a call here at the Bald Truth. Go ahead.
I just looked at a comment I see in Joe's chat, and that was another thing I saw was one of the commenters made saying about NeoGraft, and a lot of clinics kept mentioning that, and that was one thing I said to them after listening to you guys, saying I'm interested more on the procedure as a whole, not necessarily NeoGraft, I guess, or the technology what you're using to do it is one thing, but I want to know who's the actual person, that's going to be making these decisions for the hair.
That's exactly.
And at the end of the day, I'm not, if I'm concerned about the money, then I shouldn't be doing it to begin with. I'm concerned about the results. It's like I'm not gonna go into, like let's say I want to get LASIK in my eyes. I'm not gonna go into the place. It's like, hey, we'll do it for $500 each eye. Like that doesn't sound like something to me that I would be looking for.
Yeah, you don't want to get your LASIK done through a Groupon situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's like I'm looking.
Yeah,
I'm looking for a reason of, what is the credibility of this doctor, the results of it, not just.
Well, you want to know their personal experience, and if they're not going to be involved in the surgery for some reason.
I'm looking at the way that it just feels like to me that people are trying to sell me on systems.
Well, that is exactly what's happening.
A lot of them are regurgitating the exact same thing. It's like we have NeoGraft, we have this. Our PRP lasts for 18 months. Ours does this, and to me, it's just like there's a lot of different information here, and
I can tell you this: that no one knows how long their PRP lasts. It's too soon. They don't know. There's no baseline average. There are, again, I'll bring up Joe Greco. I have no financial ties with Joe. He really has seen the best results when people are able to come in on a quarterly basis, period. Now, a lot of people aren't able to do that. They can't fly in or they can't afford it, whatever it is, but that's just the reality of it. And then there are those who are out there, guys who I recommend as, surgeons who are very well respected in the surgical community, who are making claims that all you need is RPRP once a year. And, you don't fucking know. Listen, this is what I recommend. I let those who are accepted into the IAHRS are accepted because they are providing the most consistent surgical results in the industry. That's it. I have to kind of put my blinders on and just let you guys know what's going on and my feelings about it. Whatever else they're fucking selling, I'm not buying. That's just the way that it is. And even the guys who are part of my organization, they know that. They know I'm not going to tell you to go and get low-level laser light therapy, because if I was going to do that, believe me, I can get the most advanced laser hood from the biggest company out there, set it up in my living room, and watch TV with it every night for free. Wouldn't cost me a dime. I can get whatever I want. I can have people fly out here and give me their special PRP in my home. And that sounds obnoxious, but that's the truth, because they know that I would endorse it. And, I believe in PRP. I really do. I have someone in my personal life who flies down to Florida every quarter to get it done. She is a woman. She flies from New York to Florida to get this done, and her hair has changed significantly. Mm-hmm. So I am a believer in PRP. But all PRP is not created equal, and that's what is so fucked up about this industry. So you're telling me that these guys are selling you all the same shit. They're working on devices. That's the way the industry works now. They get attached to these device makers, and these companies think, hey, we're going to promote these devices as this new technology, and this is how we're going to market ourselves. But then guys like yourself who are educated realize these are all user-dependent devices, whether you use a safe system or a Cole instrument system or a DeVore system or a NeoGraft. It's all based on who's performing the fucking surgery.
And let me say this, and then we can move on to the next caller if we got one. But you're looking at two different things. You're looking at surgery and you're looking at these non-surgical options like the PRP, the LLLT. The one thing to look at, no matter what anyone tells you, it doesn't matter the device, doesn't matter the treatment. They can tell you anything they want, and it can sound great. It can sound convincing as hell. But you have to stop. Each one of these individuals, after they tell you, give you this sales pitch, tell them these words. Sounds great. Let's see 5 results of anything.
Anything.
Anything you're telling me that you can do better than the next guy, show me. Show me the pictures. Show me the video. Because if they can't show you why this is better or why this works or that it works, if they can't show you, then you need to just kind of write it off and don't even think about it anymore, because you have to have proof. This is a visual goal that you're going after. This is a cosmetic issue. And no amount of logic, no amount of debating, no amount of explanation is going to make a result appear out of nowhere. So you need to see something that backs this up. And so when you're looking at these different machines or systems or whatever, I've been saying this since the beginning, and Spencer's been saying this. It's user dependent. But the way I like to say it is the tool is only as good as the hand that wields it. That goes from a manual punch all the way up to an artist robot. Because if the person that's operating the system, air quotes, being manual or a robot and everything in between, doesn't know what they're doing, then you're screwed.
And I can tell you that there is no advantage, in my view, to the patient when you're making a comparison to, say, the neograft or the artist. The only advantage, I say, for the artist that, some of the newer advantages are, there are mechanisms now, and, as the technology has evolved, where the artist can actually help to avoid, residual scar tissue from prior incision sites when creating site incisions for recipient site placement. So if a doctor decides to use that aspect of it, then they could avoid those scars. Also, it could avoid possibly, at least these are the claims, any adjacent partial transections when extracting or scoring grafts. Those are big advancements, but anyone who knows what they're doing, who's really skilled, can do that as well with a punch. That's just the way that it is. So before we let you go, so your bottom line is you went to see a lot of doctors. You're seeing that everyone's telling you the same shit. What's your take? What's your final takeaway from your experience?
My take is it seems like that they're all kind of going off of each other. And this will be my last comment. I've noticed that none of them offer follicular unit strip surgery. Not a single one of them did. Every single one of them was they would say neograft or artist.
That's interesting.
And that was one thing to me that confused me, because I would have thought that they would have offered both, depending on the circumstance.
It actually depends on the on how long the clinic has been in business.
Were these strip mall clinics, or was there some sort of history to them?
No, some of them have been around for a while. I don't know if I could say the doctor's names on
you can say whoever you want
or not. Okay, one would be Dr. Berkowitz, which he's
Dr. Berkowitz in Michigan. Yeah. Okay, I'm not going to say anything. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Tessler and Aronovich.
All right. Okay. And so were you dealing with Dr. Aronowitz, or because I don't even think Tessler is practicing anymore?
Yeah, Tessler and Aronovich, and they're based out of Southfield region.
Right. Now, who did you speak to? Did you actually speak to Dr. Aronowitz?
Oh, no. These weren't the doctors. These were representatives.
Okay. Did they tell you which doctor who would be working with you at Tessler and Aronowitz?
Oh, no, sorry. Tessler and Aronovich did offer that method. Dr. Berkowitz was FUE only.
Okay.
Sorry to confuse that.
Okay. All right.
He was the only one actually out of all of them that offered it.
Right.
And that was one thing to me. It seems like that they're all going towards the FUE method. And I don't understand the concept of the scarring being a big issue to me, because it seems like that if you have a good, skilled doctor, that they're pretty good at minimizing the scar when it comes to the strip surgeries.
It's really good marketing, first of all, and
okay.
The whole claim is that FUT is not state of the art. The FUT is antiquated. That FUT is old school. The truth is, if anyone really wants to get the biggest bang for their buck, not just financially, but also the most hair moved, the only way to do that is with a hybrid procedure of FUT and FUE. That is it. Once you go in via FUE first, depending on how many grafts are removed, usually you are diminishing the amount of grafts that can be moved if you decide to have a strip later on. So if you're ever going to have a strip, and again, I'm not a physician, it's always best to have the strip done first and then go in via FUE so that there's no peripheral damage. There's a lot of reasons, and we're going to take a phone call in a second, guys, so hold on, 888-659-3727. But they're leaning towards FUE because that's the way the marketing is going. That is, there was a certain consumer demand. Everyone was flipping out about scars because there were a lot of bad scars out there, but there's also a lot of, scars that are not bad, like Joe's scars, and like a lot of guys, most guys, at least in our day, who wanted to have a hair transplant, they were more concerned about the final result, how the hair looked. Now when you see an ad for hair transplantation, a NeoGraft ad, for instance, which is an elegant ad, all you see is a guy with a scar in the back of his head and then a guy without a scar. And in people's minds, they're like, why would I go for the scar? But they're not showing the guy's results. They're just showing that. So that's kind of the mentality. It's an easier sell for a lot of doctors. And to create an infrastructure where you're actually able to do follicular unit transplantation it's much more expensive. You have to hire more staff, and the staff have to be very skilled. And the doctor actually has to do some fucking work.
Imagine that.
So that's the bottom line. Listen, dude, give us a call next week if you want. We can answer more questions. And I'm glad that you're doing your research.
Appreciate your time.
Keep it up. 888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hello?
Hello.
Oh, it's Naseem. Yes. I'm calling from Edinburgh.
Oh, hey, man. How are you? How's Edinburgh?
Yeah, I finally got through.
So what is it, like 2 o'clock in the morning?
Sorry?
What is it, like 2 o'clock in the morning there?
No, it's coming up to 1, actually. It's not too bad.
All right.
Okay, so actually there's quite a few interesting points that I have seen in your show while I've been listening into it, and the FUE, FUT kind of debate, it's been sort of one of the things that's been things that actually put me off hair transplant thing, because it's kind of, initially when I was started to lose my hair, and it was mostly the FUT where you take the strip out and you had more control over the grafts and placing them, etc. And then over time, my younger brother had it done. He's about 6 years younger than me. And then I was like kind of pushed because the results coming from a surgeon who wasn't that experienced doing FUE were kind of okay. And then I started to research quite heavily into the FUE side because the the surgical intervention aspect was something that I was a little bit concerned about. And actually, it was early on, I think, when I met Joe, which was when it was Hassan and Wong, and I think it was in London at some point. And
like 5-6 years ago, I think.
Yeah, it's a very long time, but time flies.
Yeah.
And thankfully, we've been still in touch. And it's kind of at that point where I was just starting to research quite heavily into getting a transplant done. Just on my personal side, I started losing my hair about 17 years ago, and initially it was a little bit faster, and then I started to take the drugs. We started off with finasteride and Propecia, experiment with that, I didn't see anything dramatic. And then sooner or later, I was on dutasteride, which is the more potent dual inhibitor of this DHT hormone. And I started to see some stabilization in my hair, which was a good thing because I can manage it. And that kind of helped me through the years. Mm-hmm. And it's actually come to the point where it was not really changing much. So I could sort of maintain my hairstyle. You know, I got a particular haircut, and it kind of suited me, kind of fit in. But there was this very, very slow kind of progression of my hair loss at the front, which was kind of affecting my, look. So I definitely needed to do something about it. And yeah, so just cutting a long story short, so last year, actually, I decided to do some research with my brother. So we actually traveled to a few places in the world. I've done some research before, but it wasn't as extensive because we really want to step up the game a little bit. And
it was time for you to get serious. So yeah, you want to get real about it.
Yeah, absolutely. It came to the point where I had to make the decision because in that time, in that 17 years, things have receded to the point where it's becoming noticeable, and people were sort of seeing that you are having some recession of the hair. And thankfully, I've been glad I've been able to hold on to the hair that I did have to that point with the drugs. And I took minoxidil on and off, which I believe helped. But I didn't quite take it the way it's been prescribed, but that's a different story. And along the way, I did a lot of research. I mean, you mentioned RU58841, whatever it is. Did some extensive research into that, looked at the Morgan Stanley report, looked at why it was not actually brought onto the market, looked at the markets, etc., on the pricing, patent expiration, and all that kind of stuff. So I looked at a few other things as well, what's happening in the future, what's going to come in. And it just felt that for the interim period, nothing major may happen, and I'd rather get this hair transplant away. So coming back to what I was saying, so last year we started traveling. I initially went to Belgium, actually. Met a doctor there who was fairly thorough. He had an examination with both of us. And then along the journey, we met some people, and they gave us some ideas. Actually opened up my vision actually to things which I haven't really explored. Surgeons in places which I wouldn't be aware of because I'm based in the UK, and we don't really access much of, like, for example, the Spanish or other parts of the forums in other parts of the world simply because of the language barrier. And this kind of opened up exposure to other surgeons, and then from there on, I had to revise the list of surgeons we're going to go through. And it actually,
you went to Recuperapello or and then Belli Capelli, probably for the Italian forum, and
no, actually, I had an idea of the kind of surgeons I was going to go for, like my target. There was a few in there which I hadn't heard of. Okay. And, I decided to, dig a little bit deeper. And so I actually we started off in Belgium, and then I wanted to actually going to go straight to Turkey. And then actually had to revise my whole trip and ended up going to Spain first and then going to Turkey on my own because my brother didn't want to come with me for that extensive trip. And I was quite hesitant to go to Turkey, and I've been before to Istanbul, which is the kind of the main sort of area where people are going for the hair transplants. And it was almost like a conveyor belt approach. The people coming in, quickly screened, everyone seems to be perfect for hair transplants.
How many people did you see walking around in the streets that had their hat on with the name of the clinic? Like, I mean, hair transplants were walking everywhere, or patients were walking everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, it seems people were not willing to do so much homework, and I could see some, visibly, the work didn't look quite right because I saw a lot of scarring, and I saw people in the airport, and it looked a bit messy. And I went in anyway. I went to the clinics I was going to go to, and didn't quite tick the box. One of the persons we wanted to go in isn't quite popular in the conferences and stuff, and I actually chased up with him and said, we're actually quite serious, and because I met his assistant, and we wanted to be confirmed that he is going to be the person that's going to operate me on the day he's going to do the assessment, because I didn't want to go to a clinic where I don't know who the surgeon is and who's going to be actually operating. And so this is a big thing for me, because I've got a finite source of hair, some of which are really of value.
Well, and I don't want to interrupt you, but I mean that is the thing, and that's what I think a lot of young guys out there, young patients, don't understand. I actually thought that this was all kind of figured out. And guys, you need to forgive my ignorance. I have kind of again stepped back from the YouTube world. There was a point where it's just something that I didn't feel the need to do or didn't want to be involved in. And as I've been introduced to it, and I'm reading this stuff and watching these videos, I'm just like, holy mother of God! It's like it's happening all over again. Yeah. But it's even worse. And that's people don't understand. This is not like getting a chin implant or a boob job or a nose job, where yes, if you're fucked up, it's not great, but the repairability is it's so much greater chance to be repaired and have a complete result that you're happy with than wasting that finite amount of donor area, going in, being carpet bombed with 4,000 grafts, and hoping that they're all implanted in the right direction, that you're not going to have a moth-eaten effect in the back of your head, that you're not going to look like hairs are growing in, perpendicular from your scalp with a rounded hairline and just a kind of bizarre-looking, even I see some of these guys online, and even if their hair has grown completely, and even if some of these guys are happy with it, which is great that they're happy with it, I'm just like, how is this like the new normal?
Well, yeah, that's what we were talking about the other day. It's like they don't. What was it? 10 years ago, or on the clip that just went up on Hair Transplant podcast on YouTube. I was talking about this in October with a caller that is old school from 10, 15 years ago, and he contacted me and started, he's like, yeah, who do I look at? And I said, well, just go to these resources and, get up to speed of what's going on. He called me back. He's like, the fuck is going on? I'm like, what do you mean? He said, these hair transplant results I'm seeing, from all these names that keep getting repeated, he's like, these look horrible.
Well, look, I want to make it clear. First of all, I haven't had a transplant, and look, I'm not fooling anybody. I got a quasi comb over. I paint the back of my head. I'm wearing a half a can of hairspray. I'm not saying I have the best hair in the world, but the truth of the matter is, it's not I haven't been turned into a man-made freak.
Well, you don't have the teeth of a comb sticking out of your forehead.
Well, yes, but the thing is, none of this has to occur. You can go and get a less expensive hair transplant. You can go to Turkey. You can go to India. There are places to go where young guys who feel they really need a transplant, who understand the entire scope and possible pitfalls and the long-term consequences of starting early, there are places for them to go, save money, and have a reasonable outcome, as opposed to a lot of the stuff that I apologize, because I probably should have been more tuned in over the last 5 years on YouTube, but I have not been. And I'm seeing what's going on, and I'm just shocked. I'm shocked. I'm saddened. But with that said, there are guys out there who are at least taking the time to present their cases, to talk about what they've done, even to talk about their mistakes, and talk about some stuff that they would have done differently. So I think that's very powerful.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
I just want to add a bit more to that story, actually. I did go on to Ankara, which is also the capital of Turkey, and then I actually met some people there in a clinic, and it's a very swanky clinic. It's very plush. You've got chauffeur driven, and they pick you up and etc. And I got to meet some patients. It gave me that vibe of people coming in on that conveyor belt approach, a bit of chicken factory type. Come in, you go through this process and you come out. I think it's kind of fairly common now in Turkey, and it's a big business in Turkey. And
it's the biggest aspect of their cosmetic tourism business, and one of the biggest moneymakers, tourism moneymakers that Turkey has today.
But on that note, I want to make a comment. My comment is this: it's also brought in competition, and it's quite fierce competition between clinics, and depends on where you go. I just want to make a point that I actually went to see a guy there who's doing it individually, just on his own as well. And that guy is actually not well known. And I only got to know him because a particular guy that I know who's done very, very extensive research let me know about this person. But the reason why I didn't go with that person actually seemed like he was quite genuine, very caring, and, etc. with the hair. It was more to do with the personality side, because there's more aspects to just going with a surgeon, because for me, it's about producing results, but also being a surgeon that you can get along with is sympathetic to you. And, I felt that, I'd come all the way from, at the time from London to Turkey and other countries just to see this guy, and that he wasn't so, welcoming. I just felt that there was a bit of friction there. So I decided not to go, down that route with him. And then actually, I just want to give some feedback on that clinic that I did went to and I didn't decide to go ahead with. I got some feedback from some of the people that I met, and I kept in touch with one of the guys on WhatsApp, and he's actually become the poster boy for their website, and he actually got really good results.
There you go. And that's a very important thing that you just said. And guys, hold on. We will take your calls in a second. 888-659-3727. That's the way that these companies operate now. These guys who have good results will become the poster boys, and then they will start selling hair transplants. WhatsApp is huge, and that's how they essentially are in contact with you guys all over the world. Joe has a lot of insight when it comes to this, because he's dealt with this, and he did an undercover sting operation in Turkey. But all I can tell you is, in my view, you got to be really careful of the guys who decide to kind of jump in feet first with these foreign clinics and start becoming consultants, even if it's just a year out, 2 years out of the surgery. They need to be in the industry a little longer, in my view, before you start to listen to them. But Joe, you can give your advice.
Well, I was going to say, this actually is a great lesson for anyone watching this or listening to the podcast once it's uploaded, is that you said something important, that you felt like there was a bit of a personality clash. I get it. That when you go to a clinic, surgeon, doctor, whatever for whatever you're going for, it's nice when there's a connection. It's nice when you can feel that this person is really into you as a patient and really wants to make sure that you feel comfortable. In the grand scheme of things, though, doesn't matter. What matters is that doctor, that physician, is passionate about what he does, passionate about the procedure, to make sure that technically and artistically everything goes the way that he or she wants it to go, so that the result is what matters in the end. If I were to be in the market for another procedure, getting along with a doctor would be really low on the list of priorities for me. Because I would be looking at their results, the videos. I'd be going to the clinic as I do. I would be meeting the patients, and if I saw a level of consistency that demonstrated the kind of result I'd be looking for, personality is the last thing I'm thinking.
There's a guy in New York, not going to mention any names, very well-known physician who Joe from Staten Island refers to as the mortician. Okay, and. Yeah, the bottom line is he may not have the best bedside manner. He may be very dry, and in some cases, people have contacted us, and I've spoken to him about this, and they're turned off by him based on not his thoroughness during a consultation, but just his matter-of-fact attitude. He's not your fucking friend. And that's how he sees it. He's here to do a job. You're either a candidate or you're not a candidate. If you are a candidate, this is what I think we can do for you. Yeah. And, a lot of people are kind of turned off by that. And he's one of the best doctors in the world. So, I understand your point too. And what Joe's saying is absolutely correct. If you got a bad vibe, you get a bad vibe. And you got to go with your gut, for sure. But it doesn't always mean that bad vibe, that personality clash, or that lack of, a warm and fuzzy feeling with a doctor means that if you go to that doctor, you're going to get a bad result. Because a lot of the worst doctors out there have some of the better personalities.
They're really friendly guys.
They're very friendly. These are the guys who will bring you into their home sometimes, or put you up in a guest house or some shit like that. And then the next thing you know, you're trying to call Joe or contact the IAHRS or American Hair Loss Association for repair surgery. It's just the way that it is.
The way I saw it, it's two things really. It's your personality and your competence at doing the job. The reason why I said the personality side was because I was asking some questions about the way he's going to do the surgery and the way he's done it before, especially around the hairline, which is one of my biggest concerns, and is your face, your frame, what people look at your business card really when you're speaking to someone. And it was a question. I think it was a fairly common question, and the answer I got was from his wife, who was doing the translation, is that he knows what he's doing. And I think it was the manner in which he conducted himself, which I felt would not be comfortable. Well, I wouldn't be personally comfortable.
Listen, to me, that's a fuck you moment also. I'd be like, go fuck yourself. Great, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Take me back to my hotel.
You've got to understand the situation like most guys like myself would be in. Now, I've come on my own from, London to Istanbul, to Ankara, I've gone particularly for this surgeon, and if his attitude is off, then I'm not going to be comfortable going through a surgery with this person. I don't care if he's the best in the world, because the reason is that on the day, I want to be 100% sure that guy, I'm comfortable in his hands, and I feel personally that this person is listening to me and is understanding what I want and is going to be able to deliver that. He may be competent, fair enough, but with other people. And to be honest, in this particular case, I saw some results, and what I heard from the person who referred me to him, it wasn't consistent. So
okay, well then that's a completely different story. Yeah. So
from that point, I had to park it there and continue on with my journey. So really, I brought that up because I think gut instinct is also an important factor as well. You got to look at the fact, the competency, consistency of results, what that person is going to offer you. I'm not too concerned about the money side, so I'm not going to go for a cheap hair transplant. Is whatever there might be some marginal increase for going with someone who may offer me even a 10% better. I'm going to go for that 10% better, but. That's just me. And that's
well, here's the thing, guys. I'm going to take your calls in a second, and we're going to have to let you go and take another phone call. But I will say this: I always say to tell guys, price is your last thing to look for. Now, if you're working within a certain budget and you're deciding to go to, like, you traveled to Turkey, or if you decide to go to India, whatever it is, okay, certainly understand that. But still, if you're working within that range, you need to find the physician and the clinic that is churning out the best results, and there are a lot of ways to find that out. I think it's great that you went personally to meet with these people, which is huge. A lot of guys just don't do that. They do consultations online, WhatsApp. They're picked up in a BMW at the airport with some guy that smells like fucking Turkish cigarettes, and is taken to their hotel, right to the clinic. Their blood is drawn, and then they're in a bed or on a like in a dental chair, like with sheets, on either side of them, and they're being operated on within hours. You're doing it the right way. But if you choose to go somewhere else in Europe, the UK, or if you choose to come to the U.S., price really should be the last thing, because especially when it comes to the West, a lot of it's negotiable. And you have to understand that. They may say it's $7 a graft or $9 a graft FUE or $8 a graft FUE. But once you make the decision to sign on a dotted line and you say, look, I've done a lot of research. I really want to go to you, but I do have this budget. Is it possible we could work within this budget? There are many clinics who will do that. And that's, it always pains me to say that this really important discipline of medicine and surgical procedure is negotiable, but the industry has commoditized itself. So that's just the way that it is. So for those of you who are trying to save some money, kind of put that on the back burner. Find your surgeon or clinic first, and then work on hustling for the dollar. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. I mean, that is a good strategy to have, is to focus on the results, the competency of the surgeon. Is it consistent? Is it are you going to get a reasonable result based on your type of hair that you have, the donor capacity that you have, the contrast with your hair and your skin and all that, and all those variables? Because there's a lot of variables. And, you're going to go in there making a decision with a surgeon who, like I said before, you're working with a finite source of hair. I know a lot of guys are going to get beard hair transplant and all that, but for your hairline and your frame and all that kind of stuff,
there's so many variables. It's insane. But listen, we're going to take another phone call. I thank you so much for calling in. I wish you the best of luck. I think your story is really important, and the fact that you're doing your due diligence the right way. I wish to God more people would do that, and not just go on YouTube or go on the message forums, even if it's Bald Truth Talk, and make a decision sight unseen. You're doing things the way they're supposed to be done. So sure. I wish you the best of luck, and let us know, call us. We're going to be here every week. So call us back.
Sure.
All right, man. Good luck.
Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Let's see who this is. Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hey, how's it going? This is David Dennison from Washington, D.C.
David Dennison from Washington, D.C. You just gave out your last name, but welcome.
Yes. How are you guys doing?
I'm okay, man.
We're good.
What's going on?
Okay, thank you for taking my call, first of all. And, yes, I had a question. I'm 38 years old. I feel very blessed that, I've had my hair for this long. I am thinning now. I started thinning around 30, but I have to say, growing up, it didn't look good. Everybody in my family's bald. I mean, my uncle, my uncle's uncles, all my cousins. I mean,
well, at least you were prepared for it, right?
I was. So that's why I think even having the amount of hair I do at this age, my crown's going now, but even having the amount of hair I do at this age, I'm very happy with.
That's amazing.
But I want to keep it. I'll tell you what. I didn't think it was going to be a big deal when I lost my hair. But, what I did was I had a rough year, a lot of stress. It's Washington, D.C. It's the boiler room. So I had a rough year, and I lost a lot of hair. I had, diffuse thinning. So I said, okay, it's going. So I shaved it. But the problem is I look like an inmate.
Well, that's not the worst look. I mean, there's the inmate look. There's the cancer patient look, and then there's Kane from Kung Fu, which is, that's what I would look like, So, I mean, if you look like a tough guy with it, then that's okay.
As long as you don't have ink on half of your face.
Yeah.
Then, you should be able to clean up well.
Yeah. I mean, did you try to add a little facial hair and see how you looked?
I did, but I'm like everybody else. I want the best of both worlds. I want to be able to try to retain my hair. So what I did was, I'm a due diligence guy. So I said, okay, what are my options on the table? You know, if I'm going to lose it, I'm going to lose it, but I want to put my best foot forward and try to save my hair. So I did try Propecia.
Okay, good.
I tried Propecia a couple of years ago, and I think I stopped too soon. I think I psyched myself out. You know, I'm a proponent of Propecia. At least there's an option, you know. So I think I psyched myself out after a couple of months, but I'll tell you, within those couple months, my hair was growing fantastic.
Let me tell you something. I'm going to be 53 years old. Mm-hmm. I've been on drug for well over 20 years. It completely changed my life. Now, I'm not saying that I have, you know, like I tell you, I paint the back of my head, but whatever. I mean, the amount of hair that I've been able to save using this drug it would be life-changing for so many people. And I find it so unfortunate that there's such a tremendous fear in the last 10 years that has developed and that has kind of been perpetuated online. Guys don't even have a fucking fighting chance to keep their hair now because they're too afraid to take the drug.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There is no other option. And people just get so scared about potential of what might happen. There's the guys that do have side effects, and that's obviously, you know, an issue. But then there are the guys that may even be on it, and this may be where you're going, but they may even be on it, but they'll stop at thinking, well, what if down the line I get side effects? And it's kind of, you know, the thought process itself is just self-defeating.
Well, I'm going to tell you what. I'm at the point where even if I do get side effects or even 20% of the side effects, you know what? I'll just lower my dose instead of stopping completely.
But did you get side effects when you were on it?
Well, I did, but they weren't like severe side effects. And at the time, instead of stopping completely, I should have just lowered my dose because, you know, this is a hormone drug. So, you know, it takes time for your body to adjust. And what I've seen from reading a lot in the forums is, you know, maybe the first 6 months, 7 months is a little rocky, but after maybe a year or two, your body, everything balances out.
Well, you know, clinically, and this is just based on clinical trials, the vast majority of those who suffered with adverse side effects suffered with what's known as transient side effects. They went away if they continued to stay on the drug. Now, there was a percentage of men who stopped using the drug during the clinical trials, but those who did have the adverse side effects, who stuck with it, those side effects went away. So it's pretty common. Like, I talk about the side effect of feeling like I was kicked in the balls for a couple of months.
That issue.
That obviously went away. But you have to also understand, when I started taking this, there was really no information about what was happening. You couldn't read about it on the internet. There was no forums. There was no, you know, I was like the guinea pig, or one of the main guinea pigs out there taking this drug for hair loss. So I had to just talk to my doctor about it and kind of just muscle through it, which I did. But I do think that if I would have read all the shit that's out there today, I'd be bald because I probably wouldn't have taken the drug.
Neither one of us
would.
I'd be scared shitless.
Both of you guys have great hair, by the way. So keep it up, whatever you're doing.
I appreciate that. It's a sham, but, you know, as long as it looks good.
But I do have a question. I got two questions. The first question is how, you know, I'm at that age where, you know, I'm 40's around the corner, and I you know, I'm suffering naturally from low T symptoms. How many of the guys that you know have successfully been on TRT and Propecia and been fine with it?
I can give you my experience, not my personal experience, but I've known guys who have started to do testosterone replacement treatments, and they, you know, a lot of times when you're prescribed this, and again, I'm not a physician. This is just based on anecdotal information, so I'm not giving you medical advice, but a lot of doctors will also want you to be on DHEA while you're taking TRT. One thing you want to talk to your doctor about is the fact that it's pretty well known that increasing your DHEA while you're on TRT can actually increase your DHT levels and cause you to go through a telogen effluvium, a shedding process. So what I usually suggest to people who call and talk about testosterone replacement therapy is just talk to your doctor about the possibility of starting it without using DHEA as well. With that said, there's a very kind of interesting line that you have to cross, and it's really kind of trial and error. What you want to do is get on the lowest dosage possible to, help to increase your testosterone to a normal level while you're taking finasteride. The good news is taking finasteride could protect you from increasing testosterone that you're going to, or the synthesized testosterone that you're going to be injecting or spreading on your body. So, it's kind of like, it's a catch-22. I am 50, I'm going to be 53. I would be so fucking jacked if I decided to take, testosterone or HGH. I'm in an age where there's no doubt that I would benefit from it. In order for me to maintain my muscle mass and to, look the way that I'm comfortable looking, I really have to train pretty hard. And I don't see the gains that I used to see. And I still have a lot of strength. I choose not to do it because I've been able to save so much hair. So I'm probably going to wait till till I'm 60, until I get to the point where, wait a second, I'm getting tits. This is not good. So that's the way I would rather sacrifice having that super chiseled body that I once had, and then I lost because I got fat and bloated and started to drink too much, but then, started to get back. But, to not have, to sacrifice my hair. It's tough for me to answer. I know guys who start TRT and then start to go through a crazy shed also while they're on finasteride. So it really is hit or miss. With all that said, finasteride itself could increase your free flowing, your blood levels of testosterone. So you may go up even up to about 10 to 15% just by taking finasteride, because you're having essentially less of a conversion from testosterone to DHT. So that alone might help you, and you could talk to your doctor about that.
But then I heard that when you lower your DHT levels, then you may get increased estrogen levels, where
it's possible.
Then you could take an AI.
Yeah, they would put you on an aromatase inhibitor, which is probably less likely, according to experts and physicians, to cause you to have hair loss. So you could...
So it might be take an AI and take Propecia at the same time if my doctor feels that's fitting.
That might, yeah. If your doctor thinks that's something that could help you, that may... And then, you stay on finasteride for a while, give it a month or so, have your testosterone tested, and you may be surprised that you're at a level that's, within the normal range for your age.
Okay. That's good advice. I'll definitely, I have an appointment next month with him. He's a guy out of Florida. I'm going to definitely bring that to his attention. So that's something I didn't think of. I'm really glad you brought that up.
But I want you to know that, I just want you to know that low T, they call it low T, is a marketing term. And the reason why it's so prevalent and the reason why it's so talked about now is because these companies are trying to sell drugs. There are a lot of guys who, if they were tested, if their testosterone were tested, even if they're functioning normally, they're building muscle mass, they have strong erections, everything is fine, they're not rapidly aging, they naturally have lower testosterone numbers than somebody else. It's just the way that it is. Mm-hmm. But now everyone's testing for low T. If they feel tired, you got low T. It's like ADHD.
I was just going to say the same thing.
Yeah, they essentially found a drug, so then they had to find a diagnosis for that drug. Now every kid is a fucking zombie because they're on Ritalin or they're on Adderall. They're destroying their natural levels of dopamine and other endorphins and shit like that, and they become addicted to these drugs. So I'm not saying that low T doesn't exist, and I'm not saying that men's testosterone levels do not decline as they age. But what I'm saying is it's a lot less prevalent and a lot less, and again, I'm not a doctor, but a lot less, what's the word, damaging to your overall health, to your ability to maintain muscle mass, and to your ability to have sex than a lot of people think. So I just want you to put that into perspective. Just because you've been told that your testosterone levels are low, unless you are actually feeling the effects of it in a big way, then you may not need testosterone replacement, especially at your age.
Okay. And then, thank you for that. And then the second question is, there is a doctor out of Florida named Dr. Bolton. And I noticed, I don't think he was on your website as certified, or you cleared up, but he seems to be getting amazing results from his patients. I mean, he has a max harvest plus, I think, where he's able to, get a pretty small scar, but the density he's able to get out of his patients are pretty incredible. I wanted to think about what you thought about his procedure.
Well, here's how I feel about it. And, the one thing that I don't like to do is I don't like to, we're not here to try to harm anybody's practice. And I will tell you that many years ago, Dr. Bolton did apply to the IAHRS. And at the time, I just wasn't convinced. He was younger in the field. We have a 500 case minimum for physicians to actually become a part of the IAHRS. So, there were several reasons why we couldn't bring him on board. I'm not saying that he does bad work by any means. I have not, since that time, he has not reapplied to the organization. So I have not had a chance to speak to many of his patients, and I've had not had a chance to see a lot of stuff in person or speak to patients directly. Understand that YouTube and the internet it's used for marketing. And they're only going to put their best foot forward, whoever it is, whether they're in the IAHRS or they're not in the IAHRS. And I want to make it clear that it really had nothing to do with Dr. Bolton's work at the time as to why we didn't bring him on. Again, he was relatively new to the field, so there was a lot of, I'm trying to be as diplomatic as possible, but there were just, a lot
baseline requirements.
A lot of baseline requirements that just were not met at the time. And believe me, I would love to have taken his check. I think back then when he applied, we were charging $1,400 a month. So you do the math, that's about half of what most Americans make in a year, just to say yes, come on board. So, that's basically what I can say about him. I think that there are a lot of doctors out there who are getting great results, and I think that, in my view, the guys that spend a lot of time on YouTube, the guys that are really out there pushing their shit through that type of social media, are guys that you probably have to go meet in person and meet a lot of their patients in person before you make a decision to have surgery with them. Is that a fair response?
Yeah, that's definitely a fair response. I mean, I've been kind of going out there, and what I've realized is that the hair transplant industry is the black market. I mean, I'm shocked about some of these doctors, the patients that are not even qualified to even do a hair transplant in the first place, and they're taking them and they're taking their money. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Black market. It is one of the most. First of all, just to let you know, I'm doing more mainstream. As I'm getting older, I'm getting into the mainstream cosmetic surgery world as well. I've been doing hair for over 20 years, so it's an opportunity. I was younger. I was a kid, and the only concern was hair loss. Now I'm in my 50s, I'm like, oh, maybe I'm going to, eventually I'm going to need some shit done. I got to learn about this. And it's also a good opportunity for me to kind of grow and evolve what I do and, do something different and fun. But I will tell you that the entire field of cosmetic surgery is so fucked up, you have no clue. I thought it was just hair. I used to say how fucked up the hair industry is. All of these guys, Botox guys, they're all doing shit. Not all of them, but there's a large percentage of guys who are aiding and abetting the practice of medicine without a license or the illegal practice of medicine, allowing people. I mean, there's a doctor in California, up in Fresno, and their technicians, they were basically being criminally charged by the state's attorney, or being looked at currently, I should say, by the Consumer Affairs for practicing medicine without a license, just for not being licensed to inject Botox and Restylane and shit like that, and for the doctor not being in the office. That's just Botox. And first of all, injectables can cause a lot of problems. This is happening in hair every single day, and it's getting worse. So what was bad 10 years ago is nothing compared to the way the industry is today. You are in the most ruthless, heartless field, and you're doing research in something that you want to try to change your life and better yourself. It's almost impossible now. That's why we do what we do. That's why Joe's kind of pulled me back in. That's why I haven't retired. And not to sound obnoxious, but look, I've sold a lot of books over the years. I've been doing this for over 20 years. If I want to walk away from this tomorrow, I can. But there are guys like you who are just realizing maybe I'm going to get something done. And what are you doing? You go into YouTube. You're asking about doctors who are promoting themselves on YouTube. People are listening to these online influencers who, sadly, are providing information on stuff they don't even know about.
It's interesting. It's like I'll see these people commenting on some of the subject matter. They're putting out these videos about different aspects of surgery, and they don't even understand the subject matter, much less the nuances of the subject matter, and they're regurgitating what they're being told. A lot of times these clinics will have consultants that establish relationships with the patients. I used to do it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but the patient can sometimes become so, and there's nothing wrong with this. They get really passionate about it.
They become brainwashed,
and they want to learn, but they're learning from a very narrow angle of view about the industry. They're learning about the industry from the perspective of one clinic. And I'm here to tell you, Spencer will agree with this, that no single clinic has the answer to how best to do any part of the procedure. They only have the answer on how it's best in their practice.
Well, and here's why I decided to work with Joe on the show and bring him on board, besides the fact that he called the show for over a decade relentlessly. But no,
please take me.
No, but this is it. I have a very unique perspective because I speak and hear from thousands of patients, and also I work with many clinics, meaning they're applying to the organization, guys who are accepted into the organization. We have an inside look of what's happening. I know where all the fucking bodies are buried, period. There is nobody in this industry, and this is, not to sound obnoxious, who really fully understands the truth. Joe has been in the trenches working for a clinic, so he has seen some buried bodies. He has witnessed a lot of shit that no one has ever witnessed. Seen patients walking through those doors who have been so harmed, and heard stories that none of you guys would believe. So for anyone to go out there and say, my doctor's the best, and this is the best, and you should do this, and this is my experience, and that's their personal experience. We're dealing with the experiences of thousands of people. And also, we know who the drug addicts are in the industry. We know who the technicians who are fucking arrested for methamphetamines. We know everything.
Oh yeah, I forgot
about this industry. just because we've been in it for so long, it's fucking ridiculous if you know what was happening.
And we're talking about people that are authorities.
Yeah, doctors who've lost their license, who have been committed into mental institutions, guys who lost their license because they were drug addicts.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
like
got
a
the
come to
license
Jesus
back.
moment. You know, I mean, I will say this, though. The industry right now needs both of you guys more than ever. I mean, that's the hard fact. The industry needs somebody right now that is actually preaching the truth like you guys, because people are getting destroyed left and right. Now, the doctors that I spoke to that were honest with me, there were a couple out there. I would say 20% out there that were honest with me. They're like, listen, if you want the best opportunity to retain your hair, you need to get on Propecia, because you don't have enough donor hair to sustain if you go to a Norwood 7. You know, so that's kind of why when I went into this journey and I started looking at hair transplant, and I kind of got that information from the starting, it circled me back to Propecia. It's like, okay, if I'm going to have to take Propecia with a hair transplant anyway, why not try Propecia to try to save my hair and skip the scars or the bad hair transplant.
And that's perfect. You know, there's a guy, Paul McAndrews. He's a senior medical advisor of the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons. He's probably turned down more patients, and he makes $9 a graft, no negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
Strip guy, does small procedures, also does FUE very well himself, by hand. This guy knows his shit. First thing you tell someone is whether you need a transplant or not. The transplant's always going to be here. Try this medication, even if they're Norwood 3 and could benefit that day from a transplant. He has sent people home because he knows that these guys will come back in 6 months with more hair. And they're going to end up being and making a better candidate for surgery. Even if he's able to save 15 or 20% of that hair or regrow 5%, it gives him more options to make this guy look better. And it makes this person more confident in knowing that at least I'm going to be able to retain more hair for a longer period of time. And that's his MO. He doesn't sit you down in a chair and draw a line on your forehead and say, this is what I can do for you.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it, right.
I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. So these are the people that I like to deal with the most. And sadly, even in the IAHRS, everybody's different. You know, listen, I would say there's one guy, actually, he did a podcast or a broadcast the other day, John Cole, who I've had some, him and I have gone back and forth, and he's obviously part of the IAHRS. And then there was a time when I couldn't work with him, but he's a really, really good hair transplant surgeon. And he said, look, the IAHRS, everyone in the IAHRS are good doctors. In his view, there are some doctors, just like any other team, that are the stars. They're the starters. And then there are those who are, the relief pitchers, or, some guys have to sit on the bench for a while. And in my view, that kind of makes sense. And not necessarily in the surgical aspect of things, because I really believe that everyone in the organization is doing really great, consistent surgery. But as far as the advice aspect of things, or the way they may treat patients, or the way they may, like Paul McAndrews, will put you on Propecia before he tries to sell you that surgery, that's a star, in my opinion. And, I think you made the right decision for yourself. I really do. I'm proud of you as far as, like, you doing your due diligence. You're smart enough to realize this is a fucked up industry, man. And what I've been looking on YouTube, and it's so crazy, I feel old because I just have not been paying attention to it. And what I've been seeing, what Joe has pointed out to me, I'm just like, all right, now the shit is on. Something has to be done.
He had no idea. It's like I was telling him about some of the things I'm running into, and then he had a look, and he called me up. He's like, what the hell's been going on here? Where are these guys getting this information? This is like Stone Age information. What's going on?
Yeah, it's crazy. But listen, dude, thank you for the call. We're going to take some more calls and then probably call it a night. Feel free to call us back. Let us know what you decide to do. But again, surgery is always going to be there for you, man. It's there.
Okay. All right. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for taking my call.
All right. You got it, man. Take care.
Thanks for calling.
888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Yes, hello. This is John from Florida. How's it going?
Hey, John from Florida.
Hey, John.
How's it going?
Going good. And you guys?
Good.
Pretty good. A little sweaty in my studio, man. It's so hot today, believe it or not, in Southern California that I didn't turn on the air. But go ahead.
All right. Well, yeah. So basically, I have a question regarding Propecia.
Sure.
I've been taking it for it's like 2.5 months now, and I've noticed that it's worked pretty well. Like my texture, my hair has been getting good, and I haven't seen my hair fall anymore. But I kind of been getting I guess one of the rare side effects from it. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, kind of just pain in the breast area.
Yeah.
I don't know if that has to do with the drug. I don't know if what exactly. I've talked to a couple of doctors about it, and they they get off of it. But I'm I don't really want to get off of it because it's helping the hair. So it's what the fuck.
Here's the thing.
But,
here's the thing. It's less common, but gynocomastia is a real side effect, potential side effect of using finasteride. With that said, and again, I'm not a physician, it's something that could be watched. Now, some people will feel some pain in the breast area without any swelling. If you feel
exactly,
if you feel any swelling or see any changes, what you need to do is you need to talk to your doctor about getting off the drug, and as long as you catch it in time, it will reverse itself. Now, there are those who have stayed on it to the point where they've seen the breast tissue grow and it's actually got nodules underneath their nipple, and those don't go away. Those will have to be removed if that was the case. But there are people who do get that breast tenderness that will eventually be transient or go away. So my advice, and this is the advice of a layman, I'm not a physician, so I'm not giving you medical advice. But my advice is to talk to your doctor about it again and watch it very closely. I mean, take images, watch try to stay at the same weight, watch any changes in your pectoral area, underneath your nipple, see if it's tender to the touch, if there's any noduling, any type of fatty deposits. Watch for that shit. And it's very possible that pain can go away.
Yeah, because out of all the things, I haven't gotten that's the only thing out of it. Because I hear a lot of people get erectile dysfunction and brain fog, crazy stuff like that. I haven't gotten it. That's the only thing that's kind of I guess bothersome.
Look, I've had brain fog since I've been on it. It hasn't stopped me in life.
I think I was born with brain fog, but that's a different story.
And I guess this side effect is more of the one where it's kind of like you said, gynocomastia. I don't see it changing. I don't see my nipple getting big or anything like that. But I just notice just transient pains once in a while, just do that. But I actually talked to a surgeon here in Florida, Glenn Charles, and he was talking to me about sometimes if you go to an anti-aging doctor or something like that, they could put you on that was it called an estrogen blocker, because they say it has to do with the testosterone being converted.
Right. It would be an aromatase inhibitor that would inhibit the enzyme aromatase so that it doesn't convert into your extra DHT into testosterone, or your testosterone into estrogen.
And then the question I guess is taking for instance you're already taking the drug Propecia, now to add in something else would could that be something that's worth it in the long run?
Well, anytime you add a drug into your body, you're taking a chance. There's a chance of side effects. Anytime you fuck with your hormones, there's a chance of side effects.
Correct.
In 2 months I'm going to be 53 years old, and I've been on this drug for many, many years, over 2 decades. I'm functioning just fine. I have a very, not to sound obnoxious, but a youthful physique, all that stuff. I could be diagnosed with some fucked up form of cancer tomorrow from the drug. I don't know. I'm very honest with everybody. I don't know what I'm doing to my body by being on this drug for so long, because nobody knows, because I'm one of the guys that's been on it the longest. But all I can tell you is, you have to weigh the benefits versus, the cons. And there's actually a term for that, which I couldn't think of because I think I had brain fog. But you have to just figure out, what's best for you. If you don't see any growth, and if it's only transient pain, my advice would be to talk to the doctor, even talk to Glenn, Dr. Charles, and say, I'm not seeing any growth. I have some transient pain. Do you think it's okay just to watch it for a while? And then if I see something, then maybe I'll get on a aromatase inhibitor or stop the drug.
Because he actually told me about the whole. He actually did the thing where we went to go get blood work, and then he monitored and said that the estrogen wasn't he said it was at 29 or something, and it wasn't that over the normal range. But he says that some people are different, and that sometimes someone could be perfectly good at 20 or something, but if you go to 29, maybe you're getting side effects. So it's kind of I guess by individuals, everyone's different.
Look,
but I guess it's worth it.
You sound very worried about this, and I understand why you would be. But the fact that you've been on it for how long now?
2.5 months.
Okay,
probably almost 3.
The fact that you don't see any puffiness yet under your nipples or of your nipples is a good sign. And that you've already noticed results in such a short period of time, that means that you are a fast responder. You would probably notice the adverse side effects, especially gyno. Gyno appears, at least anecdotally from everyone who's contacted me over the years, it appears to come on pretty rapidly. So,
and just to add to that, I think that most of the stated side effects do tend to manifest a lot sooner than later once you start taking it. The sexual side effects, the brain fog, and all the things that we've been talking about, including the gyno, in your case, the tenderness. In my experience, and I'm not a doctor either, but in my experience working in clinics since 2002, that's the pattern that I've noticed. So you're still fairly early in this process, but I think you said that your tenderness is it's random. It's not a consistent issue. How random is it? Once a week, once every few days?
For instance, I was taking 0.25 milligrams for a while, for I guess the first month and a half to 2 months, and then recently I started taking just half a pill, and then what was weird is that I took half a pill on a Monday, and then I took it that Monday, and then on Wednesday or something it started.
Oh, you're breaking up. You're breaking up now, man. Okay. Are you saying you lowered your dosage and then you started to?
No, I upped it.
You upped it.
I put it up. Yeah, I put it up to.
So why don't you go back?
And then
and you weren't having side effects before.
But that's I've always had that. At a lot of side effects, I was always having that one. Even on 0.25, I was always having randomly just
Okay, but it's still it's still very short-lived and transient.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
The whole thing is that I just guess that I'm taking low dosage to begin with. So, since I'm taking low dosage, I don't know if taking that next step of again, doing an aromatase inhibitor or something like that would even be worth it. You know what I mean? If it continues, you know what I mean?
I have to be honest with you. If it continues, it's something you need to talk to your doctor about. But it doesn't necessarily mean taking aromatase inhibitor is going to make. It's just it will change. It'll have a different function in your body. It will block the enzyme aromatase, and that's what it's used for. Now, what are the long-term side effects or short-term side effects of blocking aromatase? You can read about that online. You can speak to Dr. Charles about that. But there's a lot of athletes, a lot of people that use aromatase inhibitors, and they do not seem to cause these guys any extra side effects. At least, and again, this is all anecdotal, all stuff I read, shit that steroid guys talk about on bodybuilding forums and stuff like that. Stick to what you're doing now. Talk to your doctor about sticking to what you're doing now. I have a feeling if you're not seeing anything, then those pains will start to go away. I just spit all over my microphone. Jesus. Those pains will start to go away. Try not to think about it too much. If that's your worst side effect at this point, then I think you're pretty lucky.
Yep.
And just check out your chest. Just keep an eye on it. As soon as you start to see a change, if you get off the drug, it'll reverse itself.
Correct.
That's the point.
Yeah, and there was like I guess like another thing I wanted to bring up was that I also was like presented the option of like taking like I think it's like another one, finasteride, which is like because they say some people like don't have side effects from one and then they have side effects from the other. But out of what I read, I heard that the finasteride is much like more potent.
Well, let's put it this way:
is.
if you do have side effects from finasteride, the side effects can be more severe generally, and they can be longer lasting because the drug has a much longer half-life. And those who do suffer with adverse side effects from finasteride, even if it's just while they're on the drug, they seem to have to deal with them for a much longer period of time. My advice is this. I am not a doctor. I got to keep saying that. My advice is, you said that your hair loss stopped. You're growing hair. You have a minimal side effect that's currently transient, and it may eventually go away completely. You have not grown boobs yet. Just stay the course. Keep in touch with your doctor. Watch yourself. Don't fuck with the drug right now. You're already dealing with something that you want to see if it goes away, or not. And you've had positive response from the drug. So stay the course. Make sure that you're if your doctor advises you to stay the course, then stay the course. And realize that you don't have tits. That's a good thing.
Okay.
And enjoy it.
Yeah.
Relish in it.
Yeah. All right, man?
And I just have one more thing.
Jesus Christ. I'm just kidding.
Man, giving an inch?
When it comes to because I'm taking like the actual the brand of the Propecia. When it comes to I guess switching to generic, do you think I don't know, does that have any impact to it? Because
it could definitely have an impact.
It could have an impact. Don't do it. Thanks for calling.
Yeah.
No, just kidding. It can have an impact because the consistency with generics is not, in my experience, as reliable as the name brand. And I'm going to steal Spencer's phrase, we're brand whores. We prefer to use the name brand because it's that's what everything else is basing their performance off of. So why not stick with the original?
Okay.
All right, man. Listen,
okay,
good luck. Let us know if you start to grow tits. Call us, all right?
All right, thank you very much.
Good luck, man. All right, take care.
Thanks for calling.
I will take another call, and then I gotta get something to eat. Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hey, what's up? This is Jesse. I'm calling from Hermosa Beach.
Jesse from Hermosa Beach. What's happening, dude?
You got it. What's going on, guys?
Yeah,
I had a question. What's up?
Yeah, just doing a little show here, man.
Yeah, I've watched you guys for a while. I appreciate all the info.
Thank you for watching.
Regarding shock loss.
Okay.
So I'm having a FUE in a couple of months with Dr. Dauer over in Beverly Hills, and he doesn't want to go, into the front piece of hair I still have here. I'm looking Norwood 2.5 to 3. He wants to stay just on the temples because he's talking about shock loss. I just want to know your guys' opinion. How much of it have you seen, when they do, go for more density?
I will tell you, my advice is I like the fact that Dr. Dauer is being conservative, and he's telling you about shock loss.
Totally.
And he's concerned about that. I mean, it's not in his best interest not to give you more grafts.
For sure.
So, I mean, you have to kind of think of it that way. That's very sound advice. We want, as patients, or as someone who wants to get anything fixed, or in general, we always want to hear what we want to hear. And sometimes it's difficult when you hear something that you don't want to hear, and you may not be getting what's perfect in your mind. But the advice that he gave you, I think, is, again, it's only in his best interest to place more grafts and charge you more money. And the fact that he doesn't want to do that to try to save you from the potential of having shock loss, it speaks a lot to his character. To answer your question, go ahead.
He actually turned me down the first time I saw him because he didn't think I was a candidate. So I'm like, and he told me, grow your hair out and then come back and see me. And I grew my hair, and I'm like, see? And he's like, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah, and that's it. That's a lot of guys just don't turn people away. I mean, I'm very close to him as far as proximity now with my new office, and I get guys all the time that want to see him. He's turning so many young guys down. How old are you now?
I'm 29.
Okay. To answer your question about shock loss, I've seen a lot of it. It's very prevalent.
Yeah.
And Joe, I'm going to let Joe speak to this because Joe has been in clinic for so many years, and he's also had 9 hair
I watched
transplants.
I watched one of Joe's videos, that was his most recent hair transplant, and I mean, he's getting the hairs right where all the native hairs are. So do you have any?
He had no native hairs.
I'm sorry, who are you talking about?
Oh, right, that's all.
That was all transplant
Joe
hairs.
Tillman.
Yeah,
okay. So there's no risk of shock loss with transplanted hairs.
There's less of a risk, but it's also going to grow back in almost 100% of the time if you do have it. So it's a much less a long-term risk. And Joe is, you're talking about like for Mike or bald, okay? He had nothing up there.
That's a new one. TM. I'm writing that down. ForMicahBald.com.
Yeah.
No. Sorry, I just got kind of distracted there. So, so let's back up with you. You said you're like between a Norwood 2 and a 3, but you've got. Do you have a forelock
I've got no
of hair
bald
in the
crowning.
front?
It's almost like a half mohawk. The temples are gone. There's no crown balding at all, and I still got. It doesn't really look like I'm balding too much when I shave my head, but if I grow my hair out, it's clear.
Okay, so in other words, you've got really deeply recessed temples. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. You got it.
Okay, and the central hairline has receded, or it's where it's always been, or maybe just a little bit of recession.
A little bit of recession and definite thinning. So that's where I was going. I wanted the a little bit of extra density up in the front.
Okay, so I've seen cases where guys come in and they and thank you for the description, because that puts me in a better position to talk about this. I've seen guys.
Joe, your video just froze, my man.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Hang on.
It froze on me before too when I was watching.
So we were talking at the beginning of the program how we're having some issues with syncing and video freezing and all that stuff. And before we uploaded the last segment to the new YouTube channel that I started, I'm like, Joe, take a look at this. So Joe fixes it, and what he decides to do is put himself in sync and take me out of sync.
Well, that's what happens when you give me the power, man.
I'm like, holy shit! I sound like I'm a fucking ventriloquist.
How's the video
taking
now?
over the show?
Yeah, the video's horrible.
Okay.
But your audio's
Enough
fine.
About me. How's the? Can you see me?
I can. I'm not putting you on screen right now because it's really bad. But your audio's fine. So we'll answer the guy's question.
Right.
And we'll keep the keep the camera on me.
So, what I was saying is, I've seen cases like yours where patients come in and we're dealing with the temples, but then they say, well, can you thicken the front as well? And in many cases, it's a matter of hedging your not hedging your bets, but filling it in now so it doesn't thin later, which is a concept that a lot of people have in their heads. Now, you said that you're thinning in the frontal section. How much? And before you answer, the reason why I ask this is because if you see some thinning, it may not be enough thinning to justify surgery by Dr. Dauer or anyone.
I hear you.
And
I hear you. It's a significant amount.
Okay.
Like if I grow it out, it's like if a light shines down on it, you can clearly see the scalp almost.
Okay. Well, here's the thing: if he's building up the temples, he's got to build up a density in those temples to blend in with your existing hair, right? If he doesn't, then it just it looks silly. So the question is what kind of density?
He's only doing. he's quoted me at 2,000 grafts. So, I mean, that's not a lot to work with.
Well,
I got to tell you, it's more than. It's so funny because everyone is so used to these fucking numbers that you see online of 4,000, 4,500. Yeah. There was a time when 2,000 grafts was called a mega session.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
And that wasn't too
grafts.
long ago. And to move 2,000 grafts, you know, at the very least, you have a much greater chance of those grafts being moved safely, being out of the body for a shorter period of time. If, God forbid, there was some issue with growth, or you were a smoker, or something that was just, you know, that wasn't a known part of the equation, and those grafts don't all grow, at least you're not going to be losing, you know, 2/3 of your donor area. So those are a lot. 2,000 grafts will make a significant difference in your appearance.
Absolutely. Right. And I think, look, obviously this is sight unseen. I don't have photos or video of your situation, but I know Dr. Dauer. Spencer knows Dr. Dauer. He's not going to tell you something that is going to be, you know, contrary to your benefit. In other words, he's not going to tell you something unless there's a really good reason for it. And I think that if he feels safe with 2,000, then, you know, there is a point where you have to trust in the physician that you've chosen based on, you know, all the other evidence that you've seen to support that decision. You do have to have a little bit of faith.
Totally. And I trust him 100%. I mean, I've done a ton. I mean, I've been researching this for 3 years now. So it's like, but I mean, you know, you do get those little last minute jitters and you're spending a bunch of money and it's like,
oh man,
if I do it once and it's not enough, then do I need to do it again? And it's, you know, it's all that stuff. So
don't
cover my bases.
You will probably need to do it
totally.
again.
I know. I completely understand that.
Yeah.
I've done all that research too. So.
And Joe,
jitters,
if you take this clip and you make me look like a ventriloquist on the next one, because you're the one who's totally out of sync at this point. It's killing me. We got to fix this.
We'll balance it out. Next one, I'm out of sync.
Jesus Christ.
And I also got the pixelated video to make it worse.
My OCD is just really kicked in today. Go ahead.
The point here is, you know, everyone gets the jitters. I mean, my first surgery, or I should say my first repair surgery, I was driving from Seattle and I was so freaked out about going under the knife again. I got through the border. I actually had to pull over because what I was about to do was so traumatic. It just all came welling up. And I was on the side of the highway in Canada. Never, you know, it's like, what? And it was just, it was really bizarre. But when I think about it now, it made perfect sense. I was weeping like a baby. It's like all this stuff I've been holding for 9 years.
I was like when you met me the first time.
Pretty well the second time, but
yeah,
because I got to see you again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get it, man. And I've dealt with literally thousands of people that have had the exact same issue. So just like everything else in life, you're not the only one. So
sure.
And, you know, embrace this moment because it's exciting and, you know, it's scary, but it's exciting and it's part of the process. And I think that, you know, like I said, have a bit of faith. Dr. Dauer's really good guy.
I tell you,
good surgeon.
You are in really good hands, and I have seen. I would say. I mean, I can't even remember a real fuck up from Dauer, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I looked at all of his work, all of his reviews. I mean, I couldn't find anything that I didn't like, and just his personality. And, you know, the fact that he's an artist as well and like a musician that produces music and stuff, you know, so he's got that creativeness where he has an eye for this stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, he's also had several hair transplants himself. So he's a patient.
Gotcha.
And, you know, so he understands the emotional aspect of it as someone who's had to sit in that chair 3 times or 4 times already.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know, and I don't know if you knew he was a patient, but he talks about it.
No, I didn't know that actually.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's done all strip. And he knows everything there is to know about hair transplants.
Sure.
Are you having a strip or FUE with Dr. Dauer?
FUE. He laughed at me when I said I possibly wanted strip.
Interesting.
Because I came in with the shaved head, so he's like,
okay.
He's like, there's a good chance you're going to go back to that.
Yeah.
I don't want to do a strip on you.
Yeah, no, that's smart, and that's excuse me, a major reason why he wouldn't do it. So
totally, and I do have a lot of donor areas. So I mean, I guess in the future, if I do, decide to do strip or just another FUE, I think I'll have the grafts for it. But
well, I would tell you this: listen to Dr. Dauer. He's a guy he's very trustworthy, and again, FUE he charges even more for. Believe me, an extra 1,000 grafts that would make you happy would, pay for his kid's tuition that month. So, he could take your money if he wants it.
Right, totally.
All right, man. Listen, good luck. Let us know how it
Appreciate
goes.
it.
Say hi to Dr. Dauer for us.
Will do. I'll be posting results on the forum. So
terrific, man.
Outstanding.
Take care.
All right, thanks, guys.
Bye. You want to take one more call?
Let's do it, man.
All right. I almost choked on I don't know what the hell was going on. Like my own spit. Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, guys, it's Mo, and I'm calling from New Jersey. How you guys doing?
Hey, what's your name?
Mo, M-O.
Mo.
Oh, hey, Mo.
What's happening, Mo?
How's it going?
I just got to say, Spencer, I'm kind of being just introduced to you, actually through Joe. Joe, I've been following you since your first class, and I just want to say I think you do a hell of a job. You've made life a lot easier for not just me, but a lot of people out there who, I mean, it's a fucked up business, as you guys know, and there's really only a few honest guys, and now via you, I'm being, Spencer, I've kind of been on your bandwagon, so I'm really pleased to get the opportunity to talk to you guys.
Well, thank you so much, and listen, I love actually hearing, and again, you become complacent and you get involved in your own world, your own business. And, my world was my world. And then when Joe started to say, dude, you got to see what the fuck is happening on YouTube. This is really bad. I take a look. I'm like, all right, I guess I'm going to have to jump in with you. And it's great. Right. It's been having new guys find the bald truth in its 20th year. It's an amazing feeling. And it's actually inspiring me to possibly put out another book. I'll talk to my publisher about it. But the industry has gotten so fucking bad that there's just got to be better information out there again. We got to kind of almost start from scratch. So go ahead. What's your question?
No, by the way, I did just look into getting your book. I haven't read it yet.
It's
I'm 28 years
old. First of all, I'm going to tell you the truth. It's not in my best interest to say this, but the last publication was 20 years ago. It's still in print. That means people are still buying it, but it's Hair Loss 101 and Hair Transplantation 101. At the time, it was groundbreaking. Now, just go to our websites and you can read the same information.
Wow, that's cool. I mean, save me a couple of bucks, but
yeah.
But,
send the money to Joe.
No, I will. So I'm 28 years old. I don't have an orthodox kind of hair loss. My majority of my hair loss, I would say roughly 80%, is actually from, I had severe case of psoriasis. Okay. And it was genetic, and there was a lot of kind of other issues that I had, more autoimmune kind of issues. And my psoriasis was extreme, and it was not just in my scalp. It was kind of progressive throughout the rest of my body.
Sorry.
And but my scalp was very severe, and just it being literally on your head is just so, there's just a lot of kind of just the mental kind of aspect of that.
Of course.
And I was around 22, and I started mostly losing my hair from that, just literally from all the itching and the follicular damage that was done from it. Was really severe. I researched early on. I didn't take the plunge, even though I could have, and then I decided to kind of go in and go for a surgery. Now, in terms of my psoriasis, I have that fully cured. I mean, psoriasis is, like eczema, is not something that you can 100% cure, but I have it definitely under control. I don't have flakes. I do a lot of kind of ointments and homeopathic kind of things that I'm pretty much psoriasis free. So I've had that kind of cured.
Good for you.
Congratulations.
For lack of a better term, for the past 2 years, I would say.
Now let me interrupt you real quick. Did you do this yourself, or was this under the direction of a doctor?
A mix of both. Definitely, I was under kind of strict monitor from my doctor. And the crappy part about psoriasis is that it's something that's, again, there's no 100% cure, right? There's only kind of things out there that have worked for some people and haven't. But for example, there was one thing that was at the time very groundbreaking, and they said it's a 95% success rate, but in X percent of them, they've had lymphoma from that. So there's been a lot of kind of things like that. So honestly, I've just gotten really, really lucky. I've kind of done, a mix of both, and it's worked. It's worked for me.
Did he put you on Did he put you on probiotics?
Yes.
Okay.
I was on probiotics, and then there's a lot more kind of Joe, I was watching your other video, the last podcast where you kind of talked about better diet. I followed kind of the same regimen, pretty much just lean meats and vegetables, cut sugar, and it took a long time, but even just taking care of my body in that sense, it was kind of a mix of all different things.
Yeah.
But for 2 years, I was
probably a bad idea if I lit a cigarette right now or something.
Probably pull out a big chocolate cake.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Sorry.
I still waited. I kind of wanted to see what my progression hair loss would be like without my psoriasis, and I pretty much had it stabilized. So I decided to kind of take the plunge. I booked with Hassan and Wong back, and I'm due for surgery in August. I'm nervous as hell. I'm excited, and I'm coming in with realistic expectations. I've had a pretty good consultation. I'm not coming in to try to get Eddie Munster's hairline. I think I could have a pretty solid hairline, but I know I'm setting myself for future, transplants. But, it's just the real question, or more so comment I had was, and Joe, the kind of crap you've been dealing with for the past, I would say, 3 days, it's that on the internet, there's so much of, not just misinformation, but just blatant lies. And honestly, I would have been one of those people had I just been immature about it. Like, I think when I first started my research, there was a certain doctor that's been mentioned in the threads, by the way, in South Florida. And they sell you such a dream. And honestly,
I'm sorry, real quick. Mel, you meant the comment section of the live stream right now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Sorry.
A certain doctor in South Florida, and they sell you such a dream, and kind of, I've seen this kind of doctor work on patients who are 18, and when I mean have no recession, I mean like absolutely no recession, like not even, 2 centimeters. And it's just, but the thing is, we need more people out there like you and other top clinics like Hassan and Wong and others. I mean, I would say Rahal, all these other guys. I don't want to get into specific in terms of clinics, but need to be out there in the more of the forefront, because I do feel if there's one downside, and I would take you out of this, Joe, but there's more content from lower end clinics and individuals, and I'm not taking a specific shot at anybody, then top clinics.
I'll tell you why. I don't mean to interrupt you. The reason why is, in general, the top clinics are so busy that they're not out there trying to market themselves in the way that a lot of these novice clinics are, or guys who couldn't be a part of, say, what we do, in the Bald Truth world, in Joe's hair transplant mentor world, in the IAHRS, through the American Hair Loss Association. So, there's a large percentage of guys who choose to do the research, and they may go on WebMD. And who provides the information for WebMD? Well, the American Hair Loss Association provides more than 1/4 of the information now. I've been asked, they've licensed our information. I've been asked to write more articles, and I just haven't had time. But now I'm realizing, shit, I gotta get my ass in gear and get out there more. So there's a group of people who do their due diligence, who find our resources. So it keeps all of the good guys busy. So the good guys aren't out there killing themselves trying to get stuff on YouTube. They're not attaching themselves to people who they believe are big influencers who may not know anything. Now, there are some good guys out there who do that because they're told to do that by their consultants or by SEO companies or by people who are just trying to remain relevant and paid by a doctor and saying, hey, look what I'm doing for you. I'm hooking you up with this person and we're getting all these leads. Isn't that great? I'm of value. Right. Pay me money. You know? Yeah. So you're right in exactly what you're saying. You know, and that's why Joe, I have to say, literally has twisted my arm to make this happen. Not saying that I don't want to help people, and I've just been so busy in life that I've neglected this, and I've decided to put my head down and work to get some real information out there so that you guys not only have Joe, but Joe doesn't have to sit there and kill himself producing all these really high-end, crazy videos to try to make his point, and we can just have conversations with you guys. People want to hear your stories. They want to hear your questions, and they want to hear exactly what you're saying. So that's what we're going to give them.
Exactly.
But
yeah, this YouTube thing is. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. I was
I'm just reinforcing what you're saying. I mean, this YouTube thing is really getting crazy, and talking to Spencer, and I think I said this at the top of the show. The industry itself, as far as clinics, it's worse now than it was 15 years ago because there's so many more opportunities for patients to get screwed up. Basically, that's what it comes down to. Right. But the way that patients are finding their clinics, more and more of them are going through YouTube, just like you would for anything else. It's like if you're a guy and you're looking for something, guys look for more visual instructions on how to do shit. It's like, when I'm working with Final Cut Pro, my visual editor, I don't want to read something. I want to watch someone else doing it on YouTube.
I want to see it, right?
Exactly. That's how I learn, and that's how you learn. It's how most guys learn. So when you start looking up hair transplant stuff, what are more and more people doing? They're going to YouTube.
And I have to be honest. The problem is, look, I'm very honest with you. I'm going to be 53 years old. I mean, this is I had to do it the old school way. I had to get published by a major publisher. I had to, I was on the radio. I mean, I worked my fucking balls off to build a name, to have the most recognized organizations in the world, all that wonderful stuff. But in the end, anyone can now just go online. There's a low barrier to entry and say any shit they want to say. And sadly, young guys are so vulnerable and so susceptible to wanting to be fixed. These guys are able to build this emotional connection.
I was going to say that exactly.
Yeah, with these young guys, and all of a sudden these guys become experts. When there are some great. I watched some of the stuff that Joe sent me. I'm like, this guy seems like a nice guy. He may be a little misinformed, but he seems like a nice guy, and he's really trying to give out his information. So,
the thing is, we think that they're willing to learn.
Yeah.
And so what we want to do is we want to help, I guess for lack of a better, mold these guys into being able to present stronger information in their unique way, right? And it's like I've got my style of getting my information out there, which is based on my experience, which I've laid out. Spencer is, we're working on the Hair Transplant Podcast YouTube channel and maintaining this format, which is, I love this format. I've been, watched for a long time before I even became a part of the show.
It's a real pain in the ass, though. It's hard, but go ahead.
It's just so much involved, but you guys have no idea. But then you got other guys out there that are doing this because, and to be fair, I think that they got excited about their own experiences, but then they got kind of caught up in the potential of what could be. And then you've got some people that are monetizing, and then, and there's nothing wrong with monetizing. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But it's just, there's a certain way to do things with maybe a bit more class, or with a bit more, what's the word? Transparency. One thing that Spencer and I have been talking about that he's really pushing big time is truth in advertising. I mean, realistically, we've both been doing this for a long time, and it's just like the core of everything we do. But truth in advertising is the basics. And let's be honest, like all the YouTube, including myself, we're all advertising. We're advertising ourselves. We want you to listen to us, but for different reasons. I want you to listen to me because I want you to know, I want you to learn from my experience. I'm not monetizing my channel. Nothing's it's like I might in the future, but if I do, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to have it plastered everywhere, as it should be.
And you know, to piggyback off what you're saying, I know what's been going on the past 2-3 days, and I'll just be very blunt about it with you and David. Generally speaking, I think David's a good guy. You know, I think he means well, and you know, as per his experiences, where he's coming from, he's, you know, I won't say he's wrong, but you know, the video that I really, you know, the part where you really struck a chord with me. It's not because I'm having surgery with them, but it's, you know, bringing up a top clinic. And again, it's there are so many bad clinics out there, and there's so few good ones. I mean, the ratio. I mean, you know better than I do. I can't give a number, and to kind of just give a misinformation regarding price. And you know, to me, I kind of used the approach that you guys said. I didn't care about price first. I cared about kind of, you know, results, everything else, and then talked about price. But to a lot of people, price is the first thing. Now, it's not right. That's why you have a lot of guys going to Turkey and India and Pakistan and so on and so forth. And but to say that about a top clinic, and maybe you have somebody borderline who wants to go to a top clinic and somebody who is a great advertiser, but is not. And then when you bring, you know, 6 figures, there should be a little more responsibility on that.
Okay, I agree with you 100%. But you need to understand something. You said very specifically, price was not an issue. I'm sorry, my friend, but if you did your research and then you were hit with a $120,000 estimate by anyone, you would change your mind real fucking fast.
Exactly.
Well, he made that point. He made that point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's the point. What I meant to say was, price is not in it. Like that was not the first thing in my mind when I was talking about a quality surgeon. I did not want to think of price. I want to know someone's going to be cutting my scalp, and I want to make sure that, you know, it's not the first thing on my mind. But exactly, that's my whole point. Is that if someone says $120,000 for 3 procedures, I'm like, whoa. I mean, I'm not Brad Pitt. You know, I mean, you know, so I agree.
Well, here's what I think is an important distinction. You know, I did see some stuff that Joe had sent me, and I saw one video with this consultant who actually is a consultant who, if I remember correctly, and I could be wrong about the guy who contacted me many years ago to have one of his doctors apply to my organization.
Is this a South Florida doctor?
This is a South Florida doctor. Yeah.
Okay. I know who you're talking.
I don't know exactly. Well, you may or may not, but and it seemed like a very genuine guy. Contacted me, and again, I don't know if it's the same person. I'm pretty sure it is. My memory is kind of fading. It's been about a decade ago, but if it was this person who's currently on this video with this kid David. This person contacted me and said, look, you know, we have a great deal of respect for everything you've done. The IAHRS is a very valuable credential to anyone in the industry, and we really want to be a part of it. You know, could you see it? You know, could you see Dr. So-and-so being a part of things? I said, look, anyone is able to apply. Let me know, you know, whatever. Send me the information. So we took a look at the number of cases, so basically based on all the variables, I could not accept his money. Okay. And I think at the time it was either $1,400 or $1,500 a month. It's less expensive than it is now. For most people, that's about half or a third of the average annual income just for saying yes to one person. So the person on this video actually knows that I'm not a guy that's just out there collecting checks. Now, have I collected checks? I've collected a lot of checks. In this industry, I would probably say that I'm probably one of the, if not the most successful person in the field. Now, that's being totally transparent. I'm a capitalist. I'm an entrepreneur. But my whole thing is selling the truth. and being honest and letting people know exactly what's going down. If someone is part of the IAHRS, they pay a membership fee, period. Just like if they are part of the ISHRS, just like if they are part of the AMA. The thing is, I don't work on volume, and the difference is we don't accept everybody who's doing hair transplants. That's really the big difference. So when this guy's sitting down saying, you know, I think he was one of the videos were hair transplant forum scams, and then they mentioned the podcast. Now, the forum I think they were talking about was not our forum, obviously. And there's a lot of scams on forums, which we talk about all the time. My whole thing is stay away from the fucking forums, even though, you know, I have one of the most popular hair transplant forum in the world, and I tell people, take what you see on the forums with a grain of salt. You know, because of all of these things, you know, there's fake users, fake people, doctors going on there trying to bash their colleagues. We don't have a back end or PMing system because of that. But just that the nuance and the way that things were being said, it was very dishonest, in my view. And it really showed I think an aspect of character that is questionable. That's all that I'm saying, especially when this particular consultant knows exactly how things work, and especially how things work with me and, frankly, with Joe, because these guys watch the show all the time. Yeah. Joe has offered money hand over fist. I've been working with Joe. I've known Joe for 15, 16 years. I know how much money he's turned down over the years, and Joe knows how much money that I've turned down, and that's not about being an altruist. That's about being a good businessman in my estimation. You know, I got to be able to sleep at night too.
That's the thing. It's like, you know, it's easy to take the deals that come up, you know, for quick cash, but I'm trying to be smart with what I'm doing. I know Spencer has been smart with what he's doing, and the real money is in the long game, the truth game. Yeah. You know, because the thing is as long as you're telling the truth, no one can come after you for being a sleazeball. Right.
You know, I'm not being offered, you know, $60 to sell a laser unit. What I'm being offered is a hell of a lot more than that, because I have been able to sustain let's talk about bottom line. Forget about the you know, what we're doing for consumers. That's obviously why we're doing this. But as a business, as a bottom line, anyone who contacts me understands, okay, this is where the real value is. So I'm able to command a hell of a lot more money if I choose to. That's it. That was always my way of thinking. Joe has the same way of thinking. So I actually get offended when I hear people speak badly about Joe. Not just because he's my boy, because frankly, I told him at the beginning, look, this is business. If it doesn't work out, you're out.
Yeah.
You know, but because of the truth. He's a good fucking dude. And he's one of the few honest people in this fucking industry. Sorry, I'm sorry about the rant, but I just had to let you know.
I appreciate that, but I just want to say something, and you know, this has to do with, you know, what you brought up, Mo, and it's about this video that I made, and I want it to be crystal clear that the reason why I made this video is because it wasn't about one specific person. It's actually a metaphor for what's going on in the industry or on YouTube in general because of the industry. Okay, there are a lot of people out there that have, I'll say, misguided intentions. Now, I see a real need for change. And I think that at this point, while YouTube is full of a lot of people talking about hair restoration, hair surgeries, hair loss, with, you know, the appearance of authority, I think that it's still early enough to where I can, you know, kind of sweep in and maybe plant the seeds for real change along with Spencer, so that maybe we can, I don't know, kind of help to steer this in a little bit of a stronger
I don't need to laugh, but there's a guy in your chat saying at least Spencer's humble. That's actually fucking hilarious. Guys, I'm just trying to make a point. But yeah, that's very
well. I mean,
funny.
that's what my goal is, and specifically about David, there are multiple things that he's been doing in his videos that I simply don't agree with, and the straw that broke the camel's back was this reference to how much the clinic I used to work for charges, and there have been some people trying to defend it, saying, well, maybe misunderstood. I can't believe that. I mean, it's such a massive misunderstanding.
Okay, if you say 30,000 and then you go to 40,000, I mean, you can mismatch. You can screw up there. I mean, I don't know how you screw up from 30,000 to 120,000. I mean, I'm with you. And again, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, and for all intents and purposes, I still am going to, because I don't know what's going in his head, and I don't know him well enough. But I don't know where you come up with that number and say and that's still a question I have yet to have answered by people defending him. And again, I'm not trying to make this this is like a Joe Tillman versus David DiMuzio.
So we could do a pay-per-view and have a cage match. But listen, my only thing is this: let's just get the truth out there. The truth, not hearsay, not what people read online about what they think the truth is, not hearsay about defamation that's been put online about people, whether it's doctors or anybody. Just what the facts are.
Yeah.
Not just what you read on the internet, or not just what you want, create a narrative that you want to create. Get them out there.
I actually have
go ahead.
A question to ask you guys. Now to go back to a little more kind of a technical surgery question. I want to get both of your opinions. Now, a little bit of my story. Now, I'm 28. How is now in terms of dense packing? Do you think that's for somebody like me with my age and kind of again with my story? Do you think that's more appropriate than kind of having fewer grafts, or how do you feel about dense packing with a younger patient, with somebody that's went through the things that I've went through?
I'm going to let Joe answer it, but I don't know if you told us your exact pattern yet of hair loss.
Oh, in terms of I have diffuse thinning, and I'm in Norwood. I would say borderline 3. And
now have you been assessed at all? Have anyone taken a look at you with a densitometer to see if in fact the hairs that you lost through the inflammatory process over the years might actually be regrowing to some extent? If you actually are suffering with, either real male pattern baldness, or if there's a scarring aspect involved from the inflammatory effect. I mean, have you been checked out in that respect?
Yeah, I have. Not to get in crazy details, I have. So some of the hair a lot of the hair has regrown. I mean, I've since grown through that, and that's also been in a way a pleasant surprise, because I thought I was at the point of no return.
A lot of it has.
And that's the good thing. And again, my hair loss is not. I mean, I'm like you, Spencer. I use a lot of paint, or I would say I use Kabuki, which is a great product.
How dare you? Did I say I used a lot? I probably did. Yeah. Go ahead.
Good night.
Click. And so I have gotten it looked at, but there has been confirmation from I would say definitely 2 doctors that a lot of the hair that I've lost is because of follicular damage from that. And I mean, and again, not to kind of whisk away. I mean, there is definitely some genetic male pattern kind of baldness definitely involved, but I think it's pretty safe to say at this point, with kind of the things I've gone through and kind of being looked at, that the main reason.
So there was no mention of scarring alopecia, or maybe even, God forbid, a lichen planopilaris situation going on?
No, none of that. No.
None of that. Okay. I think that I won't speak for the doctors, but I understand how they would approach this. But my personal opinion is that this is the condition you had is still, there's always questions with it. Is it really gone? Is it going to come back? Is it is anything else going to trigger it? And I think that dense packing, no matter what tool is being used, is traumatic. And I think that my gut tells me that dense packing is, and different clinics have different definitions of what dense packing is. And then of course there are the characteristics of your hair, the hair shaft, the skin tissue. Not everyone can even have dense packing, again, depending on the definition, because the skin can't handle it. And this is something that no one talks about, but if you place grafts too close, which means that you got to place incisions close, the connective tissue in between those two incisions can just disintegrate because the quality of the skin tissue itself is not very high. A lot of little factors like this that contribute to the ability or the lack of ability to dense pack. So
just to be clear on what that means is, if you're placing two grafts together and say there's a line of tissue, if that goes away, you're essentially sitting two grafts into one hole.
One big hole.
One big hole. And okay, if it fits great, depending on how things heal, it can cause compression. It could also cause an issue where the grafts just don't grow. And it can give you if they do grow, it can give you a pluggy appearance in the hairline. But there's a lot more issues.
Yeah, that's one of the big things is if you try to place two incisions too close to each other and then the connective tissue disintegrates and you got two grafts closer to each other than originally intended, and say both of them are two hair grafts. Then you got a 4 hair graft sticking out saying how to
And I've seen a lot of that over the years.
So I think that obviously, which doctor is it? Dr. Wong or Dr. Hassan?
Dr. Hassan.
Dr. Hassan. Okay. So he's going to be cautious with you, and he's going to ask you these questions about the history. He's going to talk to you more about it. Make sure he's very cautious about stuff like this, and I always give him credit for that. And my view, I think that maybe a little bit more of a conservative approach, but he's going to really spend some time with you before the surgery, looking at your scalp, asking you questions. He's going to be like physically pressing and touching because that's the way he works. He can feel it, and he can get an understanding of how your physiology will hold up to it. So my view is be conservative. At least to some level. Don't say, put as many as you can in there. He won't.
Right.
But I think it's safe to just kind of, pull back on the reins a little bit. Don't go for broke on it.
And I'll give you my opinion. My opinion is, especially when you're dealing with an inflammatory condition like you have, and Joe is right, you never know when something can return. Now, it's great. Obviously, your diet and everything you're doing has put things in check. But trauma from surgery itself could all of a sudden snap you back into having that condition, even if it's temporary, and that's a big issue that people don't talk about. My suggestion to any patient, again, I'm not a physician, but just based on my experience over 20 years, would be conservative, like Joe says, especially when you're dealing with psoriasis or any type of dermatitis or any type of autoimmune or inflammatory issue of the scalp. You want to make sure, A, that your skin is going to work well, your grafts are going to take well, and you could always go back in for more. If you bombard the scalp, there is a greater chance of, like Joe said, you can end up having a pluggier appearance. And if you're dealing with any type of inflammatory condition of the scalp, it could essentially trigger it. Now, that's what some doctors may not talk, and this is not to make you fearful. You just need to have all this information at your fingertips before you make this decision. It doesn't mean that it will. And it depends. They also might put you on a different dosage of whatever medications you're taking to help to mitigate that problem. For instance, if someone has cold sores, and they get, even if they only had, one or two in their entire life, if you have facial surgery, laser surgery, whatever it is, they will put you on a prophylactic dosage of Valtrex to make sure that the surgery doesn't cause you to get herpes all over your face.
Right.
So these are things that I don't think a lot of people would consider and fully understand. The trauma of the surgery can cause your body to react in a certain way. And if you are someone who has a history of autoimmune issues, then it could react in a way that you're, won't be too pleasant.
And Mo, let me ask you real quick. Where are you located? Did you say you're in New Jersey?
Yeah.
Okay, so did you go to New York for the consultation, or did you do online consultation, or did you actually go to Vancouver?
I did both. I did online and I went to New York. So I know Mike, a good friend of yours.
Yeah.
I just want to again be clear that it's unlikely, especially if you have really kept this at bay and it's under control. But I still think less is more in your particular situation.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I was going to suggest that maybe it's in your best interest to contact the clinic and just say, hey, I just want to remind you guys of and I'm assuming you told them of your history, and I want to make sure that that maybe I want to make sure that everything's being covered. Do you need me to do anything? Any updated examination reports, anything like this? And the reason why I say this is because it might make Dr. Hassan feel better about your case to begin with, if you have something that you can present to him to say, look, I got a clean bill of health here, just for his decision-making process. I think that anyone that has any sort of scalp condition in the past, current, whatever, they should take those steps just to make sure, because you don't want any surprises. You don't want it to show up and for someone to suddenly be reminded of your condition or something that about a condition that maybe wasn't included in some notes or something. I say this because I think it's really important to be as thorough as possible if there's extenuating circumstances. I mean, to be thorough as possible if there's not, but when you have that added cog in the system, I think it pays to be a little bit more thorough.
Now, in terms of, you were saying contacting the clinic, kind of making sure that, they have enough information. How exactly, I'm being a dumb blonde right now, but do you mean like kind of, speak to physicians here in my area and kind of having kind of like a full, blood report and kind of just an overall like kind of dermatology report regarding my skin?
A dermatological report, yeah. Go see whomever it was that you saw before to get some help, and just get an update on your condition and an updated inspection report. Sounds like we're talking about a car for smog clearance, but just have another work over for your scalp to see if there's anything that might cause any sort of attention. Or draw any attention by your derm, right? Because if your dermatologist sees something, preventatively, then maybe you might be in a position where you have to say, you know what, hold on, let's hold off. Now your surgery isn't what, till August?
Yeah, August. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So you got plenty of time to do this, but I just think it's in your best interest to make sure that your T's are crossed and I's are dotted. Be proactive, not reactive. Go see your derm. Get a workup done, get a report that you can hold in your hand, and just say, hey, look, I got this in case you want to see it, or ask them if they want to see it, or get something updated, and go from there. But I think this is, you're doing all you can to make sure that there are no surprises.
Yeah, and
right?
also ask the doctor, ask your dermatologist his thoughts as far as how trauma could affect your condition. This type of trauma.
I've kind of asked a little, not directly in that way. I've seen a few different dermatologists, and I haven't seen, there's one of my, dermatologists I've seen for the past, since I've had it, again, quote unquote, cured for almost 3 years now. I still, kind of visit just to make sure everything's at bay and everything's going the way it's supposed to be going. And they said, yeah. And I have spoken to them about, before kind of finalizing my decision on getting surgery, because, again, I didn't want to, like Joe said, kind of go in there and expect something else.
Right.
And I talked to Mike and everything. I spoke to Mike. I was actually in touch with the clinic for 2 years before I, said I'm ready. And he's kind of, been talking to me also and kind of making sure that everything's been okay. And I did consult them before I kind of decided, saying, I'm really thinking about having surgery, and they'd actually have known of, obviously, it's, at the end of the day, it's kind of a small world. And, they felt that, and I've checked with two, that they just felt that I could handle it. They
That's
felt
awesome.
like I was a solid candidate, and they felt like, honestly, it was just they had pros. They did tell me to kind of just keep up with my regimen that I'm doing now, and that's really it. And they did, the one thing they did mention, they said that maybe other patients will not have to have, is that I just may need some more stronger antibiotics for recovery that maybe some other patients wouldn't need, if I'm not kind of
and again, that's important. That's, you wanted to make sure and use that prophylactically and make sure that this trauma doesn't exacerbate your condition. And the fact that your doctors that you're seeing on a regular basis kind of gave you a go-ahead, I think that's a good sign.
Yeah.
I don't want to put anything negative in your head. I just wanted to provide you with, a possible reality.
Yeah.
I
appreciate that.
Yeah. But sometimes I can understand that could be disappointing for people. And I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying that, I would say that any doctor worth his salt would say to you, this is always a possibility. And like your doctor said, with your particular condition, you may have to be on stronger or different antibiotics than another type of patient.
Yeah.
That's good that you consulted with them. That's smart. So, listen, you're doing everything you can. I'm really glad that you've overcome your condition.
Absolutely.
And I know that you never know what's going to happen, but I'm a big believer that a lot of these conditions are, they can be maintained, managed with the use of the right medication and really, strict diet and, good strict dietary changes.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys. I'm gonna let I'm gonna let you guys go. And,
yeah, we got to go. It's like we're like an hour overtime. So
3 hour live stream.
Thank you guys so much, and honestly, just keep at it. You guys really don't. I don't really know. Think you guys know how much you guys mean to a lot of people and how much you guys are needed out there. So keep up the good work, and I'll definitely be following.
Well, thank you, man.
Than's for calling.
All right. Appreciate
it.
Take it easy. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys, we're going to call it a night. Joe, what's the new podcast?
Hair Transplant podcast channel.
So, guys who are subscribers to Joe, go over and subscribe to the Hair Transplant podcast. It's not it's channel? Hair Transplant
podcast.
Hair Transplant podcast YouTube channel. You're going to see clips of this broadcast and also some clips that we're just going to be doing ourselves. Also, some interviews that I'm going to have with physicians and patients and stuff that you guys, really some good insight and inside information that you guys would normally not be privy to. And honestly, just the truth. So if you want to get information on low-level laser light therapy, the reality of PRP, the reality of doing PRP at home, and all the stuff that you're seeing on the internet, we're going to put that information out there. And obviously, you're going to be able to see full clips on Joe Tillman's YouTube page, because I guess this is going to automatically be put up there now.
I just put the link for the Hair Transplant podcast channel on the chat boards.
That's
guys,
awesome.
Go subscribe.
And also, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say just everything Spencer said. There'll be all the clips from the shows, and then the full episodes will be here. So if you got 3 hours to kill,
yeah, you could watch a full episode.
You can watch a full
episode. But if you just want to hear the best calls, and if you just want to get the real deal information from the sources, whether and I'm going to start doing this again. But we'll bring on Angela Cristiano. We'll bring on the scientists. We'll bring on the people who are really in the trenches. We will give you the guys the opportunity to speak to real doctors who are not just out there trying to promote themselves through YouTube, but the real deal. And you're going to get the truth. Now, sadly, a lot of you guys aren't going to be happy with the truth, because a lot of you guys will not be able to be helped. You will have to live as bald men or make choices to wear a prosthetic or whatever it is. That's the reality of hair loss in the hair loss industry. And I think sometimes guys are turned off by that, and that's why they go other places to kind of get fixed and get information, and they end up being disappointed, wasting thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars, some cases hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they're disfigured. Not all of you guys are going to be helped, man. That's just the way that it is. But at least you'll be armed with the right information. The websites, hairtransplantmentor.com is Joe Tillman's personal website. Check it out. Great information. See Joe's entire journey from bald to really fucked up to the way that he looks now, which is awesome.
I like that.
Yeah.
Bald to fucked up to, that's good.
That's just, listen, sadly, that's what you had to deal with. American Hair Loss Association is AmericanHairLoss.org. If you're considering surgical hair restoration, check out the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons. That's IAHRS.org. And yes, every single doctor who is accepted into the IAHRS pays annual membership dues. Period. I earn money. Period. But I tell you what, I don't sell surgery. Surgery is a last resort. There are no online consultations on any of our websites. And any doctor who supports the IAHRS, once they are accepted, understands that it is my duty to try to talk you guys out of surgery. And the fact that they are ethical enough to want to support the truth, that's a big deal in itself, besides the fact that this is probably one of the most important, or I should say recognized credential in the real world. So check out IAHRS.org. Also, if you want to see archives of this broadcast, besides on Joe's site, check out thebaldtruth.com. That does help us. If you go to thebaldtruth.com, sign up to the mailing list. You will get no solicitation, nothing sold. We do not sell your mailing list to any hair transplant doctors or any shit like that. You're just getting notifications of new broadcasts or new special clips that we put out. So that's thebaldtruth.com. What else? Oh, our message forum, baldtruthtalk.com. Look, we are the most trafficked message forum in the industry that does not have a private messaging system. We choose to make everything completely transparent, meaning you're going to say it, it's going to be public, period. No one's going to try to get your business behind the scenes. No one's going to bash their colleagues behind the scenes. You're not going to get PM'd about bullshit. That is a really dangerous place to be. To be in a system where you are getting PMs. You can contact people behind the scenes, because what happens is you are most likely being contacted by a salesperson and by someone who has an axe to grind, by a physician who doesn't like the fact that you're asking about his colleague. You know how I know that? Because I've seen it all. I have the back end. And I've seen the back end of other people's sites, and it is fucking ugly. So that's baldtruthtalk.com. Use it for what it's worth. Speak to other hair transplants or hair loss, hair loss sufferers. Learn about doctors in the IAHRS, and we put some special segments of the broadcast on there as well. So that's baldtruthtalk.com, and I think that's it. I think those are all the sites. And
it does it.
I got an email, funny enough, before I closed my computer, from somebody who I could say is connected to my publisher, who is like, "Why are you telling people not to buy your book?" Which I think is hilarious. I'm telling you not to buy the book because it's 20 years old. There's plenty of people buying it anyway. You know, the guys who are listening to the show are privy to the information that is recent. The guys who are still buying it, great. I'm glad they are. When it finally goes out of print, I'll probably end up writing another one, or I may write one before and just update the book. We'll see what happens. Guys, until next time, be strong. God bless, and thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the program, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you. Good night.
I always hear